All right, we're here with It's Server Time episode 4, and today we are joined by Davey. You may know him as the backup for Threes Up Enterprises. So, hey Davey, how's it going?
It's going great. Yep, no, having a great time on the bench over there. Just waiting to finally get my opportunity to break into the first team. So, yeah, just chilling. How's it going with you?
I think Method might look for a stand-in or something soon for you, so
Mm,
keep that in mind. All right.
I will.
But if you guys don't really know Davey, I don't know how you wouldn't. He is of Splyce fame. He's got stickers in the game. He
Yeah, it's
is
got stickers, dude.
He's got stickers, so check those out. Buy them on the Steam Marketplace, raise the value or something, inflate that. And currently he's playing for Mythic. Also, he has been broadcast talent recently at the ESL Pro League and at the ESL Pro League Finals. Also, he was in a little bit of a TV. He was in a box when I was at CS Summit, so he did a great job there. We had some great chemistry, some great
No,
laughs.
it's true. That was right in the heat of the that was right in the heat of the pandemic. That was right when all the lockdowns had been going on. So travel was not permitted for me to the event. So they had to put me in a little TV, and that was the best they could do. But it was still fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. All right. So we're not sure how long Davey can stick around today. So we're just going to get right into the NA news and we're going to get into some hardball immediately. So Davey, what is wrong with Liquid and why aren't they doing well?
So okay, well, so don't worry, I can solve all of their problems right now.
This is your job.
Yeah, no, no problem. Honestly, it's hard. I think that with a team like Liquid, when you have 4 players like that who've played up till now, when this pandemic started and everything started online, for the previous 2 years, I bet they had played maybe 25 maps of online CS. I'm just coming up with a number in my head, but I think the only league they played in that was ever online was ECS. That was the only online thing they had played in for like 2 years prior to this. So now being those guys and going from like finals, winning tournaments on stage to playing 5 or 6 online matches a week, I can imagine it's just not like, no matter how much people are going to be like, oh, they're professionals, they should just be motivated all the time, 100% all the time. It's like they're also humans though, so like you can't just like tell somebody to do something like, oh shit, never thought of that. Like, oh man, you're right, I'm just gonna take this online game against Mythic exactly as serious as I take this major final against Astralis. You know what I mean? It's just doesn't, they can't do that. Like, so I think that's one thing that's definitely had a pretty significant factor on them.
I'm trying to almost like save my judgment for Liquid because I feel like they've kind of been playing the same like 3 or 4 teams for the past like 6 months now, and obviously they're going to EU soon, and that's going to be a whole different world for them, a whole different set of motivation and stuff, I'm sure. So I'm kind of waiting, like kind of holding my judgment a bit to kind of further judge them based on their current performances because they've just been playing Fury and EG over and over, so it's kind of hard to like really get a good judge of like where they stand overall. So I think once they go to Europe and we kind of see how they perform there, kind of have a better idea of where they actually stand.
They also just seem like a team that functions a lot better when they're all around each other rather than playing from online. Like Stewie is very good at hyping his teammates up, and that's like, you can do it online, but it's not going to have the same impact as when you're in person as well. So like, it'll be an interesting dynamic to see when Grim is there in person with the rest of the team and see how that sort of develops as their own dynamic.
If you guys were to change, then let's, instead of just moving them to LAN, but if you guys were able to change something about the team, whether it's something about their play style or even swapping out a player, and I think it's pretty early to swap a player for this team, but if you were, how would that look for you guys? Something.
Well, for me, I don't necessarily I can't like pinpoint one thing I would change about them per se, but I think that one thing that's pretty important is I know a few of us in this call have at least worked with Grim a little bit. And I think that one thing about him is that he's very good at if you ask him, Mike, where do you want to play on this map? He'd be like, I don't care, man, put me anywhere. Right. So when you have a player like that, for Moses as a coach, it's actually a pretty big test on him as a coach because he's very similar to Elige play style wise. So you're gonna have to find a way to balance those two. And also, Grim will take positions he's not the most comfortable in. Just naturally, it's like he'll just do it. He'll just be like, "Yeah, sure. Nobody wants to play there. I'll play there." But then you actually have to teach him to play in that role, fitting into the system of the team and now also against better players than he's ever played against before when they're over in Europe, right? So I think that's going to be a real test for Moses as a coach to see if he's really can actually handle coaching young players and coaching a team of this caliber.
I'm not sure if you'd have an idea of it, but I've heard Twist is also very similar, where he's also sort of willing to get plugged into any position.
Yeah, I'm not I've never really played on a team with him, so I'm not sure. I haven't heard that from his ex-teammates or anything like that. But
wait a second,
yeah.
didn't you play the World Cyber Game Canada thing with Twist for like a couple BO3s? So
yeah,
huh,
I did.
that's
but
you're geting fact checked.
So
right
how
now.
was he like as a teammate for the event? How was
Yeah.
Couldn't. I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember. I remember Ocean was a walking meme at that event. That's what I remember. Because Ocean was our coach, and he was just like walking around Twitch chatting everybody IRL. It was hilarious. So that's the main thing I remember from that event. I also got 16-0'd at that event. So
yeah, I think
It's unlucky.
to answer
Unlucky.
your question,
Just unlucky.
Alex, I think it'd be Liquid's a very difficult team to even make a hypothetical change to, because all of the players on them are they're just basically some of the best players in North America, unless you're adding someone like Breezy to the team, which you're just not going to be able to do. It's very difficult to sort of hypothesize any changes towards them. Like something that I could see is them maybe getting an Opper, but then again, like who would you plug in? Who would you take out of that team? Like you're not taking out Stewie, you're not taking out Elige, you're not taking out Grim at this point. This change I could maybe see relating to what we talked about before with Twist falling off is maybe like Twist for an OC or something like that. But even then, like it's so hard to even consider making that sort of change to that team.
Yeah,
I actually just I think the only really I don't think they need to make a change for an Opper, especially not OC. I think if you're gonna get an Opper, you get a Simple or you get a Ziwu or you go ham. You spend the $2 million plus the 3 year, the $4 million deal, get you your Simple, get you your Ziwu. Otherwise, just don't even bother, because I actually think what's that uniqueness that Liquid has, where you never know on CT side which player is going to have the op in which spot, and they're all completely capable of doing it. I think that's super unique, and I don't think they actually want to lose that. I think if you had to make a change, like gun to my head, you have to make a change. You cut Stewie and pick up an IGL. I think that's the only like really good change for that team that I would consider making.
I felt that like even though like it is useful to have like that kind of versatility, it can also be bad for you in a way, because it doesn't allow you to like kind of set and like dedicate yourself to like one thing almost. It's like you kind of have so many options and like so many different things you can do. It's hard to like really set your mind on one, especially when you're trying so many different things and like things aren't like going exactly the plan or working exactly how you want. So I think I would kind of disagree. I don't even know like if I was to get an Opper in the Liquid, like it's so tough to even figure out like who do you change, because it's like everyone on that team is just so fucking insane and so good that like they'll instantly have offers elsewhere. But I just think that if they did get an Opper, it would help in the way that it would make their roles a lot more set. I think it'd take a lot of pressure off Stu if they wanted to keep him as like their IGL trying to do that. So overall, I just think
Yeah, if I were to replace anybody on the team, I would just have to look at their Valorant hours, and just whoever has the most, I would probably find that person and say, "All right, I'm sorry, we got to put in Simple for you. It's just how life is. All right." But yeah, I think it's a really pragmatic approach to actually pick up an Opper, because there is in reality a kind of a like little bit of a confusion with the team sometimes. Like, is Stewie or Naf going to pick it up? And I particularly don't. I think they're both excellent. Like, they're both really good oppers, but they're not like world-class top 10 in the world oppers. I'll say that. So that being said, I don't really think there's any that are feasibly available right now that you could say would just slot in better. And at the same time, it's kind of like, are you really going to put in OC for Twist when we've seen Twist's peak? He was the MVP of a tournament when they lost. Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't think there's any oppers that are even available right now that have done that. Like, the only people that have done that are what? Simple. I think Zywoo's done that. Twist has done that. I feel like there was one more person in like, history that.
No, Glaive won that event. Never mind.
He stomped that event.
Yeah, he stomped that event. Yeah, I think there was someone from Astralis though.
No, I remember Twist, Saiwu, Simple. I don't know if there's another one though.
Yeah, I feel like I know there's no other operas that have done it. I'm pretty damn
But
sure. So yeah.
either way, if I was Liquid, I probably wouldn't change anything regardless until I go to EU
Yeah.
and see how I perform there. So
Yep.
just until then, I just probably keep trying things out, keep trying different dynamics in the team as you go to Europe.
I'll just put it this way, and we can just give a really short answer. The only two ones I see right now are Gratisfaction and OC. And do any of you guys see those guys slotting in for? I'd say Twist because he's had the biggest drop in form, admittedly.
No.
Because I think
the only way I would see like OC's having somehow ended up there is if like he ended up there like before Grim or something. Like if like the timing of like everything kind of was different. But other than that,
because the big issue with swapping out a player on Liquid is that the other factor is that the player that you're releasing from the team can now go to any other team. Like you don't want Twists on another team against you. Like, what if he hits his peak form again? He's like dropping 40 on you, headshotting you everywhere. Like, what are you gonna do? So like the consideration of also having one of those players leave the team and hit their peak level again under someone else is that's a very scary prospect.
I think you sort of have to just ignore form right now too. It seems dumb, but like the fact that everything's online, like you said, they've been playing against the same teams over and over again. If you're players who are used to playing on stage, like and you go to this just over and over and over and over again, same teams, same whatever. Your form is going to drop, your motivation is going to drop, no matter what. No matter what, that's just unavoidable at this point. So I think
even for me, like my motivation dropped like over the course of 5 months when I'm just prepping against the same 5 teams over and over again and for the same style of match,
Yeah, exactly. So I think that you can't be too harsh on them right now. I think, like Mick said, wait for them to go to Europe, let that sort of reinvigorate themselves, get them some, get some new air, some new blood to play against, and then hopefully the lands, with the lands coming back towards the end of the year. Hopefully we get some more beginning of next year, and then we can actually test what their lineup's going to be and what they're going to play like.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move off Liquid here. So, IEM New York NA just finished, and Davey, you were in Group B, so you got to play against a handful of teams there. And I want to ask, Team 1. Yeah, exactly. So Davey, it felt like Mythic was having an off tournament. Like you guys probably should have won that one, and to get out in the group stage must have been a disappointment. But I have to ask about one of the other teams that's in your group, Team 1. This team's been on the rise for a while now. I want to ask from your perspective. I've actually played against them as a couple times in the last couple months, and I know that you've probably played against them much more than I have. Okay, what does this team feel like a legit top 23 team in the world right now to you?
No. Just quick answer, no. But I think I do think they're better than they used to be. Like I do think they've gotten better. I think Malbs was a good pickup. I think Malbs is really good. Maluk seems to have really fallen off. Like playing against him before, you used to be like kind of like scared of him. Like you have to make sure you know where Maluk is. He had that very unique Brazilian opera style, and now and I like him a lot as a person, but it just feels like he's sort of, I don't know. You don't really notice him on the server that much anymore.
Yeah, I think he's their IGL as well, right?
He might be. I'm not sure.
Well, anytime we played them, he completely popped off against us, and it was like I was playing against like Prime Fallen, so it was just fucking absurd.
Yeah, well, sucks to suck, I guess. But Malbs is a good pickup. Barton has gotten a lot better since he's joined. Like originally, I remember back in the day when they picked him up, I thought this is like such a downgrade. And it was at the time, to be fair. But he's gotten quite a bit better, actually. So I think overall, no, they're not. I don't think they're a top 25 team in the world. But I do think they're getting better. But yeah, I don't think they're that great.
For context, briefly for listeners, 23rd in the world is surrounded by the 21st best team is Chaos, 22nd is Gen G, 24th is North, and 25th is Forza. So I personally don't.
To be fair,
like
I think you know what? I think they could take down North.
You think they could beat? Okay, so then.
Okay, I take offense to that. I take offense to that.
Virtus.Pro, by the way, is 28th.
I'm a solid never.
So, how about this? How does it feel in the server to play against them? Does it feel like for people who probably haven't watched Team 1, does it feel like a tactical style, puggy, like just kind of 4-1? Like, I mean, what is it? Just be defaults?
It's kind of It's tough because we played them on Mirage, and Brazilian teams on Mirage run out mid, run up cat, jump into window, run up connector. Like it's just the biggest clusterfuck of all time. And
Yeah.
so that felt super puggy. I don't think they felt super puggy on Overpass, but they do that thing. They're like 2014 meta where Barton is always on the hard lurk. Always hard lurking, like opposite side of the map, 4-1s. Which is like, I don't want to say it's obviously not meta right now, but that doesn't mean that it won't work for their team, right? Because like if you find what works for your team and you do it. But so I remember thinking that was annoying. It's like, oh my god, yep. So somebody just always has to wait for him to walk out. Yep, there he is, kill him. All right, now we rotate later. Like so, like it was just kind of annoying to play against. But yeah, they did throw a lot of fakes. So they were organized. It was like the classic Brazilian organized chaos.
Okay, sounds about right. The map pool for them is kind of interesting. When I've played them, it was on Mirage and it was on Nuke. And that again is like two completely different styles. Like it feels like you move from one map to the other. And like you say, Mirage, it did like Barton, I think, ran out Palace on me like 8 times. So I just can't even hold my mouse compared to him because that dude's just headshotting everybody. But then on Nuke, they actually did sometimes play like kind of like a slower. They attempted some misdirection at times, but it wasn't super fleshed out at the time. But this was a few months ago when I played them on Nuke, and Mirage was kind of in the last couple weeks, and it felt just dominant. Like individual form was really high for them. Sorry. And I wanted to bring up that I've heard kind of through the grapevine that the thing with Team 1 is that their org is putting like an ultimatum over their heads or is dangling an ultimatum over their heads right now where it's essentially if they don't make it to Pro League, one sec. If they don't make it to Pro League, apparently, they might drop this team. So I feel like that sort of hunger has come out in their play actually lately.
I just want to point out I've been hearing that for the last 2 years. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Just so you know, like I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong. But I'm just saying I've been hearing that for years now. That's
I've heard it for a couple seasons, but
yeah.
People are like, this is the one they were serious about. So I don't know personally.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on over there. So whatever.
But Team 1 style for me, at least when I prep for them, I definitely don't think they're like top 30 or anything. Or well, like maybe like at the edge of top 30, but definitely not like 23. They definitely have improved over the past couple months. And it definitely was kind of like that simple, definitely a lot of not like a lot of misdirection, but I could tell they definitely had like a few set themes and a few things that they gravitated towards in terms of like misdirection and stuff. And so nothing like super straightforward, but also they didn't really have like a fully like fleshed out game plan on their T sides or anything. Super consistent plan.
Yeah, I think I found the biggest thing that stood out to me is that their contingency plan, like if they lose that opening pick, you don't know what the hell's happening with that team anymore. Like they might just run out every single spot at the same time because they don't know where they're going to find an answer for the rest of that round.
They were the team we played against originally that did the we called it the 1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1. Yeah, because somebody dies and then one guy runs out mid, one guy runs out Palace, one guy runs out B, and one guy runs up connector or something. It's like just 1-1-1-1-1. Everybody just go run and take a gunfight and just hope we win. Like just cause chaos. Yeah.
That propelled TRK to where he is today.
It did. He was nuts at that.
In all honesty.
Yeah. That was his strat, dude. Like you call the 1-1-1-1-1 and TRK's just out T-ramp 2-tapping all of your A players. Like it was awful.
TRK's
and then you try to rotate and then there's a guy walking out B halls. Oh, and there's also a guy that's jumped in window. Oh, and by the way, there's already one up connector. It was awful.
Yeah. He's like, say no more, fam. Another team that has actually just entered the top 30. I don't know if you guys saw this. This just happened this morning, of course, but New England Whalers moved up 20 points or 20 spots in the ranking, and they are now the 29th team in the world. So DJ, Ben Leet, Ponalone, B-Wills, and Rampage are the 29th best team in the world. These guys were not in your group, Davey, but I know you've played against them lately too. How does that feel? Like, do they feel, again, like a top 30 team?
I think we beat them every time we've played them. So, like, no, but obviously beating Furia is legit. Like that,
yes,
that's a legit win.
That is how they got here.
Don't get me wrong. If you watch the game, I don't think Furia was taking that very seriously. And they sort of tried, like they sort of realized, like, oh shit, wait. And then Whalers had so much momentum going that it was like kind of too late at that point. but it still is a legit win no matter what. So good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Obviously, I don't know if I'd say they're like top 30, like number 29 in the world. I mean, but obviously it's still a good win. I'm really glad that they're having success because I really like that team actually. I think Ponelon's like a really good player. I think
Same.
I wish Ponelon was like 18 because like he'd be the next up and coming superstar of NA.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, but
you know, the problem is I've been playing against him, and he was old back when I was playing against him in 1.6. You know, so
but like I'm really
problem.
glad to see like Ben Lee have success because I actually think he's a pretty good IGL after like his like kind of rough stint on Chaos. I felt kind of bad for him just because like I didn't really feel he was in his best role, like where he could do the maximum for a team. So I'm glad to see him having success as an IGL again for Whalers, and that's a really good win for them.
They're the sort of team where I wish that MDL sort of still had the old structure where there was like 2 global challenges a year where they could play against a little more European competition, because they're a team I'd like to see like going up against different styles and against like a different caliber of opposition, just to see if they can handle that. Because right now they've also probably been scrimming Furia a bunch. They've been scrimming these sort of teams a lot as well. So it's hard to sort of judge that. It's a great win for them in the tournament, but like it's hard to see whether they would be able to sort of maintain that sort of momentum going up against teams that are not from this region.
I will say, obviously, even though it's a bit worse at the moment, they are like 10-0 in MDL at the moment. So just overall, they're kind of having like a pretty good stretch of form. I think they're starting to kind of find their stride with their team.
They last season in MDL, I want to say, had like a nearly undefeated. Like I want to say it was 14-2 actually.
Yeah, I think they were pretty good.
I think they went 14-2 or 15-2.
And then they lost to us in first round of playoffs.
Yeah, they did. They beat me in the lower bracket first round actually, right after that. So
there you go.
Yeah, but they're pretty legit. And
I actually agree a lot with what Mix was saying. Is that if Ponelon was 19, it'd be like Liquid would be sitting there like, come on, as soon as COVID's over, Ponelon, we're gonna get you. Like, but because he's like 29, it's just like, yeah, maybe not. You know what I mean? They're just like, maybe not. So realistically, for him, the only way for him to climb into a pro team is to actually do it on his own team through MDL. So.
Mad respect to him, by the way, for sticking with CS and MDL and not going to Valorant.
Agreed. 100%. No, look, I really like Ponelon. I think Ponelon's really good. Playing against him is annoying, and it's not like annoying in the sense of like playing against.
He's actually good. Yeah,
he's actually good. Like it's annoying because he's good, and he will hit shots when you're like, I was really counting on you missing that, man. I'm
pretty sure he dropped like 30 on us one time, and they beat us on Nuke. So
no, he's good. Oh, especially Nuke. No, ban Nuke against that team. Just ban Nuke against that team. But yeah, no, actually though, I agree 100%. It sucks for him that he's not 19. Sorry, dude. Aging. Yeah, unlucky.
He is like he played when they played Liquid. He actually went on Inferno, at least. He was like 1.52 rating. Like he is legit, actually quite damn good. And it's I guess I'll just ask this briefly. Like, do you think his age really matters? Like, if he said, guys, I don't care about anything else going on in my life, like I would just dedicate my life to this game if I got the opportunity. Do you think that like is he worse because he's 29? Like, why? I know
think
that
it's a lack of
flag.
Like, it's like a lack of other opportunities as well, because it's like, you know, what teams need an opper, you know, what oppers are available. So you have there's like also other options over him. There's like gonna be like people like Cooper or, you know, OC at the moment.
OC.
Right. Yeah. So it's like kind of unlucky for him that way.
Sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. That was my point.
Okay. I think that I actually rate him as a player above those names that you just listed. But also the problem is from a value standpoint, like you were talking about, Alex, like, does it matter? Is skill wise, does it matter? No. But value wise, if you have an opper who's 19 years old, and you want to sign them, they have resale value, or they have potential. They have value as an investment. Whereas this is an example of buying high. So like you can buy this investment right now, and it's not gonna climb at all. It's kind of like buying a fucking Google stock, I guess. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of just sitting there. It might climb a little bit, it's gonna drop back down. It might climb a little bit, it's gonna drop back down. But the margins are real small in every direction. Whereas if you buy even hypothetically an OC, even though I think Ponelon's better, the fact that he could potentially grow so much means that even if you buy at lower value, the potential growth makes it worth it.
You're also
No.
buying for like longevity at that point, right? Because you
Yeah.
can sign players to 2-3 year contracts, and if they build over even 1 or 2 years, if they've built their skill up or built up their skill, then you're able to sell high again, or even recoup your investment at the very least. Whereas with Polen, like, it's very hard to imagine longevity at 29, even if he maintains this form. Like, it's a hard gamble to make as an organization that he's going to maintain it. Also, when it comes to something like sorry, I lost my point for a second, but it's like Polen sort of reminds me of like the old VP where it was Taz and Neo, where now he's sort of playing with younger group of players and bringing them up, sort of what Taz and Neo did. Obviously on a different level, but it's the sort of opportunity that he just now has. He's not going to get a shot on a large team, like Davey said. He's going to have to work his way into something like an EPL.
That's kind of funny to me just to think about, though. Taz, Neo, Polen.
Yeah.
I know, strange comparison, but it's more about the age thing.
VP legends.
15 years of trophies, LAN win, best player in
Major
the world.
victories.
Majors.
True.
Yeah, it's like literally Neo, the best player ever to touch Counter-Strike 1.6. You know, like it's just like Polen.
These three have 20 combined majors.
Yeah,
maybe not the best example, but I'm talking about.
No, to be fair, it was a good example. It was just funny.
That's just funny.
Yeah.
It's funny to think about.
MDL regular season best record. Yeah, I have to agree with the sentiment. I feel like as an org, you look at Polen, and even though his output is incredibly high right now, the fact is that if you sign him to a 3-year contract, which I guess is being made out to be the standard in the CSGO world right now, you don't know in 2 years, 3 years, is Polen like is he gonna just be like, you know what, guys, I'm getting a little tired of Counter-Strike. I'm in my 30s now. I want to have a child or something. And my
I don't know, dude. If he hasn't yet, then
well, I mean,
I don't, you know,
you can have one in your 30s. I mean, like, it just depends. Like, you don't know where his mindset's going, but you know when you pick up a 17-year-old kid, like, this kid's gonna still be playing the game in 3 years, like 100%. There's no question about it. But when it's kind of like
unless
the
Riot
turnover,
releases the new game.
huh? Yeah. Like the turnover though is theoretically lower for younger people. That's my main thing with Polen. Even though I have to agree that I think his output is great. He was one of the best players at IEM New York. I'm pretty sure 1.12 rating at that tournament. So really good stuff. But let's just go over briefly some of the other teams, especially the ones that were in your group, Davey. So there was also Chaos. They were admittedly playing with Wrath at this, and they lost the tiebreaker match against Team 1, so they didn't make it to the playoffs. I think most of us going into this would have said that they should have beaten Team 1, and really by world ranking wise, they were the favorites in that match. It's just, they were playing with a stand-in. I don't know if that is exactly the reason they lost, but how does Chaos feel to you lately with them under Vanity's IGLing versus Steals?
They still feel really good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were asking me, but go ahead, Mix.
No, that's it.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, yeah, they still feel like they're still good, improving. Vanity's getting more comfortable with calling. I still think he's trying to get comfortable with opping at the moment as well. That could definitely be a bit of a rough thing against certain teams. Like, just you randomly have a match where opping just seems like the most impossible thing to do, it seems like. And yeah, so playing with a stand-in, I did feel that like Team 1 had enough skill and enough overall ability as a team to be able to beat Chaos, especially with a stand-in, so it wasn't too surprising to me. The Brazilian community did seem very excited and ecstatic about that. Beating Chaos with a stand-in, that was quite something.
Well, you know they like beating Leaf.
Yeah.
I did enjoy watching Wrath stand in on that team though.
I did too.
Played pretty well as a player who came in as sort of a last minute replacement.
I feel like that's where he thrives though.
Yeah.
Like when there's no strats he has to remember, no smokes he has to remember. Comms aren't, he doesn't have to make that many comms. It's just like, just come in, go, Wrath, go play. That's where he's at his best. which is kind of what happens in all of the teams that he's joined in the past. When people are like, yo, this Wrath kid, he's going to be sick. He's going to be the best. And you start playing early on in a team, honeymoon phase, he's fragging out. And then you actually have to like start becoming a good team is when he just starts to fall off completely.
Yeah, I think once you have to start developing protocols and develop your playbook, that's when he doesn't really enjoy that as much.
He reminds me of a very early Roka. Is what he reminds me of.
I actually think as a player, he's actually more versatile. Like as a rifler, he's better in more situations than Roka ever was. But the skill is undeniable for both of them when they were at their peaks. I talked to Wrath briefly at Frag 2018, or one of the frags in 2018. I don't know what number it was. And he kind of talked about how he just enjoys the game and just playing with friends. And he doesn't necessarily love coming in, day out, grinding practice for 8 hours or anything like that. That's where he loses a lot of interest in the game. But it's a shame because he's probably, of players that are not on teams that are in the top 30, I guess, in the world right now, like for NA's sake at least, probably the most skilled. Like I don't know really anybody. When I look at the IEM New York NA teams, like there's no one on any team that didn't make playoffs, like so Triumph, Rebirth, Imperium, Chaos, Mythic, RBG, I might say he's the best player of all 6 of those. No, Zeppa's better, but like, or not including Chaos, I'll say that, but like any of those other 5 teams, he would be better than. Sorry, okay,
Davey
might be better.
An MDL.
Davey might be better than Wrath, but if I were to take someone on AIM Redline, I would take Wrath over you.
Actually, so would I. I'd bet. I would bet on him and not throw and still lose.
Yeah.
I had to take over for Davey once and I popped off, so maybe it's just the spots.
Oh my god, I forgot.
It's the rolls. It's the rolls.
Dude,
it was the Davey rolls.
Oh my god, on Spacestation we used to do 1v1s to warm up for like games. Like everybody on the team used to do like 1v1s and 2v2s, and we actually had to stop doing it because people were getting so mad that we couldn't do it anymore.
I remember that. People were getting so into that.
So mad. People were so mad because Chad was the best. Odorous would beat everybody.
Oh yeah, Odorous with a rifle too.
GMD,
with a rifle. Grim. I don't. Odorous would beat Grim every time with a rifle.
He beat Grim and GMD to the point where like he was just raging. He was like, dude, like fuck this, fuck you, Chad, I'm muting, and he would just mute his mic and just not say anything all the way up to pre-match. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah. So if you're wondering who's better than Grim with a rifle, Odorous.
Dang, I have a feeling he's gonna get onto a Valorant team soon. Just a feeling.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I have a feeling. His Valorant team.
Something I want to touch on quickly with that is, I feel like the situation with Wrath is maybe not quite to this extent, but it happens a lot with upcoming talent in North America. Like a lot of players just don't want to put in the amount of time that it takes to actually get good at every other aspect of the game other than aim. Mm-hmm. And like even there's a player on the team that I ring for. His name's Sluggy. He's like incredibly talented as an individual aimer. He DMs for like 2,000 kills a day, but from what I know, he doesn't like watch as many demos. He doesn't like look into that part of the game as much. And he's played an FPL before. He impressed people, but like it's just not enough at this point, right? Like you have to put in more commitment. Right. And I'm actually wondering from Davey's point of view, like for me, it sort of comes down partially to an issue of like the culture and mentality from players, but also I feel like there's just an overall lack of in-game leaders in the scene. Like every big in-game leader is sort of just left, and it doesn't really offer the opportunity for talent to develop. Like we've seen Nitro leave, we've seen Sean Garris leave, we've seen players like Nothing, who isn't an in-game leader, but like a player who could develop talent, leave. So I'm curious from your perspective, since you've brought up some of these players or played alongside them.
Well, I think for one, to go back to your original point, I don't think it's necessarily not wanting or not putting in the effort to develop the other parts of your game. You know, I can speak for one player who I've played with a lot was Roka. I played with him for a couple of years. He tried so hard. He wanted to remember the strats so badly. He wanted to remember that strat. When you called that strat, he really wanted to remember what he was supposed to do. He would feel so bad when he didn't, but he wouldn't. Consistently, he just wouldn't remember. He would forget. You'd call a strat, he'd be like, shit, which one's that? And you'd have to explain the whole strat to him. His pathing would be wrong, and then he'd be like, shit, bro, my bad, fuck, I fucked up, yo, next time. And he tried so hard. He would sit in the server with you for like an hour just making sure he had everything. He would put in so much effort, and something just wouldn't work for him. He just couldn't remember them. He just couldn't do it. I don't know 100% why, but for some people, no matter how much effort they put in, there's just certain things that they're not going to be very good at, no matter how much effort they put into it.
And it sucks because it's like they're putting in the effort, but these are still things that like you need and like that you can't be forgetting. And so it's like they're trying so hard, but maybe even if like they're forgetting and like they don't mean to, like it's still, very detrimental to the team, and it still sucks if someone continues to have that problem and like they try to help themselves, you try to help them, and it's just not something that you really can like get over.
Yeah. So as far, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, well, brief plug, because I forgot at the beginning of the podcast. And speaking of people trying hard, we're all trying pretty hard on this podcast.
Just record a video and cut it in at the beginning.
Dude, I'm already starting this. Okay, so we're doing it. Okay, basically, I forgot to shout out the Patreon at the very beginning of this, but we have started a Patreon, so help us out. We're trying really hard here. If you enjoy the content, donate whatever you can. Doesn't even matter if you're at the open level. We will appreciate your donation. But also you'll get to submit questions to the pod. There's different tiers. If you want us to look at a specific round, there's a tier list for that, or tier level for that. So, if you want to contribute to the pod and even maybe shape it just a little bit, donate to the Patreon. All right.
Sorry. Yeah, the highest that I've been on actual team is an open. So even if you're an open, you're like me.
Yeah. You just need to cut that part out and just put it at the beginning, and then.
We're running with this. We're not giving Pronogo more work. We're not giving it. Right. That guy has been working tirelessly.
What were we on? Triumph?
Yeah.
Next one we'll do Triumph. Yeah, so Triumph is the team that also feels like they're finding some footing right now. They did not make it through their group. That being said, I think their group was pretty top. Like, actually, both of these groups were kind of weirdly hard. But like EG, New England Whalers, and Fury, it felt like they were better. Like, okay, like New England Whalers is better than Triumph right now by a significant margin. Like, I think Triumph, they dipped out of MDL. I feel like it would help them considerably right now if they were in MDL. I think they need to be getting in more officials, because it feels like this team right now, after Grim's departure, is taking just a little too long to gel. And I know they're playing like every single tournament they can. They're getting invited to things, but the decision to try to focus on tournaments might have been a good idea when Grim were on the roster and they were really hitting their stride. But now that they've been knocked down a peg or two because they had to add Moose and Penny to this team, to me, it feels like MDL would do them a good service.
So they actually couldn't play in MDL this season because they played in the ESL Pro League. You can't play in both.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought they were like...
They did skip out the previous season of MDL, not this season, I believe.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at this roster, it looks like an MDL team with Moose on it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so this is an MDL team, and then you've got Moose.
Right.
I actually rate Junior pretty highly. I think he'll be one of the next best stoppers in North America. Like, just watching Triumph, like, I know he doesn't always have like the best ratings still, but like his opening kills and like the impact he's having, like especially on their CT sides, is like phenomenal stuff. Honestly, like he carries some of their CT sides. I'd like to see him better used on their T sides. I feel like he's maybe not maximized on their T sides yet. Overall, it feels like they haven't really gelled. Shake hasn't really gotten down like kind of how he wants to get, or at least he's not able to get like what he wants out of the team yet from his calling. So it definitely seems like they're still trying to figure out. To be fair, they did have a stand-in for this past event, but so did Whalers. And it feels like Whalers overall is a little bit more of a simple style that's a bit I guess like easier to play almost, especially if you have like a stand-in or something. But also to Triumph's, like if you're gonna have like a style that's a bit more, open-ended and a bit more chaotic like that, it's gonna be a lot harder to consistently get down. And if you're not on your point and like the calling's not on point, then your team's just gonna be kind of a mess.
Yeah. I would rate Junior pretty high as an opera as well, because he, as you said, like his CT side is phenomenal. Like he knows when he needs to take initiative, and he does it himself seemingly. Like I don't think Shake's there telling him to aggro in a position every single time. He knows when he has to take initiative. He knows to fall off. He plays situations very well for an opera who hasn't really been at the top level for a very long time, or played against teams at the top level. I think the thing with Triumph is that they now really have to focus on developing a player like Penny, and it feels almost like they have to start from scratch in that sense, where they don't have an experienced player like Grim, because Grim just brings so much to a team. And when you lose that sort of element and you have to, like, Penny has the potential, but when you have to replace that sort of experience is where you struggle.
Yeah, I'm curious about like the positions some of them are getting put in, because like Curry, for instance, on the last lineup coming into the lineup was like a very hot name in the scene, and he kind of struggled a bit in the lineup. And obviously Penny was another name that's also kind of struggled. He's had his moments in this lineup, but he also has overall kind of struggled a bit too. So I'm kind of curious about like the kind of positions those types of players are being put in, and if they're maybe being put in their best spots to succeed.
Yeah,
and if there maybe like more that could be done there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that like Junior looks really good. Moose is really good, but he's also plays that he's like that really passive rifler. So he's not going to be the guy that goes out there and makes a difference. He'll be the guy that if you have somebody else on your team playing well, he can like sort of feed off of it and close out rounds. Because I think he's really good. He's really good as a passive rifler. He knows his timings really well. But if the whole team is getting owned, he's not going to have any impact. So he's like one of those players. He's almost like he's kind of a luxury player, where if your team is in a close game, battling it out, there's close rounds, he can be the difference maker in those 2v2s. But if you're just getting destroyed, he will have zero impact and it'll feel like he's not even there. So he's kind of a luxury player. So having Junior makes sense. But yeah, like you said, once they lost Grim and they lost that extra factor, I think they really did sort of fall off a cliff. I don't think Ryan has had any impact on this, any positive impact on this team. And Shake has been really struggling.
Wait, who's
touching on Ryan a little bit? I'm
literally just
yeah,
Ryan.
he didn't play. Oh yeah, he didn't play. Right, Ryan.
Yeah.
Touching on
That's
Ryan a bit,
encouraged
I'm curious about your guys' thoughts on them swapping Spongy for Ryan, because like the role swap sort of makes sense, but personally, I rated Spongy pretty highly as a player in terms of like just the fact that he would pick up a lot of the bitch roles and he would.
I think it was just because like they got Moose, because you can't have perfect 1-1 replacements, which you lose like Grim and then you lose Curry. So it's like the roles. So like Moose is kind of like the best available rifler, but obviously his roles conflicted a lot with Spongy. They really needed like another aggressive rifle, like pretty much a polar opposite player than what Spongy was. So I think it was just a matter of the roles kind of conflicting and what you kind of need at the time. I think Ryan is a better fit than Spongy was, especially for their T sides.
Probably higher quality too. When he was on Envy, though, he got a lot of bad rolls. Like first.
Oh yeah, Ryan got like all the bitch spots.
Yeah,
he wasn't even. He was playing like
worst.
lurk spots too, like passive lurk spots instead of entering. So
like
definitely, he was on Envy and they just put him in some other fucking role that he's never done before. Classic.
Wait, Nifty as the in-game leader was putting Ryan? No, I don't believe it.
No.
I don't
he
believe
always
it.
sets up all his players perfectly. Wait,
I don't
you know who would have done a good job? MSL.
He would have, yeah.
But makes this
True.
thing.
he would maximize his players. Yeah,
He's it on road.
He might make Ryan look like Kirby for all I know. You know, like next.
I don't know.
I think it's fair to make anyone look like Kirby.
Ryan would suddenly start shaking his mouse.
MSL was so funny because I remember we would be scrimming like Singularity, we'd be scrimming teams like players like Ryan, and Ryan would just do something like so absurd, like anchoring a side or something. And MSL, being new to NA, would just go be like a deep side, be like, Ryan, just
tilted by Ryan.
Yeah, he's just like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Just reading out their names.
Yes, welcome to practice in North America. When somebody does something incredibly stupid, they're all laughing about it, and you're just sitting there like, great practice, guys. This is why we're gonna win the next major.
It was so funny.
I can just imagine EU IGLs coming over and just being like, hone alone, Ryan.
They are always shocked for the first 2 months of practice until they get used to it. They are like legitimately shocked when top tier Europeans come over here and they have to practice here or they join a North American team. They're for the first like month or two, they're like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like
no, that's how I feel. That's how I feel when I go to Europe and I scrim CIS teams and. Every single player in the server is like fucking simple or Zywoo, just on steroids. It seems like just the greatest people I've ever seen in the server.
The best scrimmers you've ever played against. I remember playing that QBF team one time, like maybe it was before that major run they had, or maybe something like that though. And it was just like, wow, this was a fucking experience. I think it was like 27-3 or something. They just ran us over. Just fucking boom, 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 just absolutely shit on.
Oh, there's some words other than experience you can use for that, Davey.
Yeah, I don't know what that. No, that was a. I don't know how PG you want this, but you might have to bleep it. But that was a. Actually, never mind. I'm not going to say it.
We got 26-4 by Seized and JR, so I'm just assuming everyone in CIS is actually just the greatest players in the world, and I don't know how they don't have like 4 top 5 teams.
True.
If QBF were screaming like they had like 5 Boomiches on that roster, I could imagine that being just the most infuriating thing to be up against. Dude is just
unplayable.
On every single corner, you're dealing with like a new problem. It feels like.
Yeah. It was completely unplayable. It was ridiculous.
Okay, last team. I wanted to give a little shout out to RBG in this. I don't know what you guys have seen from them too much lately. They didn't do that well in their group. But that being said, this is a team that it seems like from the outside at least is a team that you kind of hope NA strives to be a little bit more like. And when you look at the results, you're like, okay, they went 0-5 in their group. What am I even talking about? It's that they bring at least some semblance of structure to their game. And I haven't scrimmed against them personally, but I feel like they're practicing well based off of how they carry themselves in the server. I don't know if you guys mirror these sentiments.
Yeah, their coach is KJ, who used to be like one of the first analysts in the scene for like Liquid and stuff. So he's definitely helped to like bring like sense of structure to that team. I'm also glad the season takes the approach of just keeping like the same 5-man lineup for an extended period of time.
It's been over a year at this point.
Yeah, so that's definitely like super impressive to do, and like the semi-pro NA scene. So they're definitely moving in the right direction. I kind of like everything they're doing at the moment. Obviously, just getting more experience and more matches against these teams will help them. And I do think a lot of them just got added to FPL, which will help a lot of them individually.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see where they go.
I think all of those things are very unique and very cool, and it's a nice story. It's great that they've kept the same 5-man lineup. They're trying to play good CS, but they're very easy to play against. They were not hard to play against. They didn't have skill. None of their players felt like, oh shit, this guy's just shitting on us. Their play style felt very readable, very predictable, and it was just like they were not hard to play against. Just to be straight up honest, and I don't even know any of them. I'm not trying to throw any shade about anything like that. I'm just saying there's teams you play against that are like they're supposed to not be better than you. Like when you play against teams who are better than you can't try to beat them at their own game, right? Like you can't. So it's really hard to play that like proper nice style of CS against teams who are better than you because they're better than you at it, and they're also just better than you individually. So you have no win conditions now when you do that. You have to play your perfect game and hope they all play terribly if you want to beat teams who are better than you doing that. So I think it's a nice story, and I agree with you. I think it's good. I actually think it's a good thing for the scene that these guys are learning how to play proper CS based on what you guys are telling me. I don't know anything about them, but based on what you guys just said, I think it's a good thing for the scene that they're learning how to play proper CS. And I think if they do manage to develop into better players in the future, that will bode well for them in their future careers. But for right now, it makes that team really easy to play against.
Yeah, I don't think they're like world beaters or like top of MD or anything. But obviously, it's a nice base for something to come out of NA, like a different type of team, a different type of like structure to the team, like more, actually sticking together beyond like 4 weeks. So it's just nice to see. It sets like a good example for the rest of the scene and other teams around them.
You're not the first player to like echo these sort of sentiments when I've talked about RBG to some players before. It just seems to be the deal with them is that they have the idea behind the structure, but they just don't have the skill to back it up against teams that are
or the experience
the experience that are even like slightly better than they are.
The tough thing with structure, especially for a team like this, is that it's hard to get like a really good set of like structure because like the players are so like inexperienced as well. And so like a lot of these other teams around their level, like they're not as predictable. That's just because they don't even know like what they're doing either. They're just running around like. That's the only reason that I don't know. Like I call it like fake depth. Like I don't know what they're doing because they don't know what they're doing. Like it's not really just good structure and good, hiding things from my team and stuff, So
because I remember playing against them and you're playing against them. I remember even saying, I think if people who watch the Mythic VODs or whatever, they'll see like we were even saying at the time, it's like these guys are like running strats. Like they have real strats that they're running, but they don't understand what the counterplays are to their own strats. So somebody who has experience, like it's like, oh, you're running this Astralis execute from 2018. Yeah, I remember this. I've been I've been playing against teams trying to run this execute for the past 2 years. You know what I mean? So I know what the counterplays are to it, and you don't, because you haven't played against teams who counter you when you do it yet. So in order to like run a strat like that, you have to already know what the counters to your strat are, which have to be like worked out in practice. So if you're playing against teams who can't counter you in practice, you can't learn what the counters are, which means when you play against a team who knows what the counters are, you get shit on. So you like it's sort of like it's tough for them because you can't learn the counters to your structure, because like structure, it's just an up in the air word. It's like, okay, structure just means we all know what we're doing. But if you all know what you're doing, that means the other team can all know what you're doing. And if you don't know how to respond to that, then you're nothing. It doesn't matter.
Like the key at a top level to having like good structure is having structure that like is easy for you to understand, but for the other team just looks like fucking they have no idea what's going on. But that's so hard to do. It's so hard to learn how to do that.
I think this team would have a massive leap if for some reason some kind of like, and I don't know, like some kind of moose person that just falls off of their team decides like they would be down to join this kind of team. So they have some contingency plans in the forms of players or someone that's willing to take a little bit more agency. So like it's kind of like if they got a star player, because in all honesty, I can't name who the star is on this team.
Yeah.
So it like for the list of names, it's Pony, Wiz, G Manchu, Hex, and Walco. Like none of those names are like even probably in the top half of players that were at this IEM New York NA. Like they don't have like the one guy that's like a Grim or something like that, where when Triumph kind of didn't have a great round, but Grim was able to recover it, it really like covered a lot. It patched up a lot of their holes really like instantly. It's just like, okay, that didn't go according to plan. That call from Shake Zula may not have worked, but Grim was there to get a multi-frag, right? And there's just no one on RBG right now that feels like, man, he's the guy that like that we read that perfectly, but we just couldn't match him in that moment. And so and I don't know if a player on their team is ever going to ascend like that, because they have been together for over a year now as a 5. So it doesn't really feel like anyone is just going to break the mold and just set this team off in a way where they can start turning heads. But that being said, I feel like if some of these players as individuals did develop, they would be useful in a team of the future. So yeah, I just wanted to give them a shout out for that.
The tough thing, like especially as like a semi-pro team coming up, trying to keep the same 5-man lineup, is like obviously you do have aspirations to like make it to the highest level that you can. And there's always like it's so rare that you're gonna have like all 5 people that are all capable, like the skill set enough to go pro, and like so eventually, like you do need the skill. It's like just you do need the actual skill to actually get up and rise to the top level. And
they're a team that I feel like really suffered from missing out on making MDL last season, because they were doing very well in advanced, and then I think not only did they fail in playoffs, they also failed in relegation that season. And not being able to get that extra season of MDL experience with their roster that early, I think really hamstrung their growth. It would have really helped them develop. And maybe at this point, if they hadn't progressed, we would be seeing a roster change. But I think the issue for them is they have kept this lineup. They just made MDL, and now they're thinking like, we're going to stick it out and see if we can improve. Whereas if they already had another season of MDL where they had the sort of performance they've had so far, we might already be seeing changes for them.
Yeah, and I think that would go a long way. But let's get off of them, because I don't think too many people really know too much about RBG. Let's get into some of the news here that still stays somewhat on the NA side, I guess. First thing I wanted to bring up was Tag actually rounding out this Cloud9 roster, and this is an interesting pickup. It's a big one. Mix on the inside here probably made all of this happen. Was in Henry G's ear, and was like, yeah, you should pay this guy $40,000 a month. So Mix, why did you tell Henry G that?
Well, I told Henry G that because I've seen Tag play almost every single role in the game and perform well in all of them. So I've seen this guy like playing like star positions as a rifler. Like the best version of Heroic was probably like the Blame F version, the Blame with the NATO's version, and like he was like main opping on that team, and he wasn't like lighting the world on fire with the main op, but like it's not like his first role. He was doing good. He's doing pretty good with it. And then, him joining Astralis and just filling in for Zipnix and like playing so well as he has, like it's just so impressive to see someone just like come in, play any position, like any role, even if they have like their own preferences, and just frag out and just play super well like that. So having someone like that can be aggressive, that can be passive, is going to be just so valuable to have.
Yeah, I think he's a great piece to this roster. It's going to be interesting to see how he's utilized on it because he's played the entry frag role before, but on Astralis right now, where he sort of really made an like put his name back out there essentially. He was not playing an entry role, like it was still Dupree and Glaze sort of handling that. And now on Cloud9, he's sort of returning to that, it seems. So it'll be interesting to see how he's utilized and whether he can sort of keep maintaining the level that we've seen on Astralis, or at least be the piece that they need to finalize that roster properly.
Davey, I'm interested in your thoughts because I feel like they're a little bit more contentious.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to decide how much of it I wanna throw out there right now is the thing. Because like I think that if you're picking Esatag up based on his recent performances in Astralis, which have been fantastic, truly like amazing, like world-class level player in Astralis the last 3 months, you're basing that off of online tournaments with Astralis against good teams, but online, right? Where he's standing in as their 6th or 7th man, playing in a role that fits him perfectly, and he did amazing at it. And then you're spending millions of dollars, 3-year contract, and
I would argue that it was a role
potentially
that I would argue that's a role that potentially didn't fit him like well at all.
Well, I think the stats would completely go against what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying before,
It's
like
the best he's ever played in his career by far.
Because I'm saying before he actually joined Astralis and he was the 6th man. He was playing that kind of other role before. He never played like that kind of like Sitnix type role. Now he plays it for the first time. He obviously does it very well. To me, that just shows like really good versatility in a player.
To me, that shows he's now playing the role he was most comfortable in, and now, which is why he's hitting career best form.
I think he's also
whereas before he was just a good No, I agree. The teammates make a huge difference. Like if you're a huge difference. Like you're playing with 4 of the best players in the world in a role that you are now very comfortable in, clearly, and you're having career best form in a scene where everything's online now also. So it's like this literally, unironically, the stars aligned here for him. You know what I mean? Like everything worked out perfectly for him to peak. This is exactly what you wanted. So I think it is a very risky move to spend so much money on a player, bring them to North America. Well, actually, they'll be in Europe for the first little while, right? And up until like the next summer, I think Henry said they're planning to be in Europe.
It's up in the air. It's gonna be like a year.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. So okay, so bring them into a new team, then let's say, potentially change roles around. And then not only that now, but now he's expected to be like the best player in the team. He's like the guy on the team. You are the carry now. You're not playing with Device. You're not playing with Magus. You're playing a role where you weren't hitting your career best form. You're also one of the highest paid players in the world, and you're in a 3-year contract, and you've never performed like this on LAN before. So I think it's very risky. I think it's a risky move. It might be worth the risk. Like, there's a simple risk versus reward. You have to calculate when you're Henry G and you're making this decision. So obviously the people at Cloud9 decided this was a risk worth taking. I don't necessarily think it was, especially role wise.
I think what's great about it is that we can look at the cost of it all, and I think that's why this is all, like, I think esports and Counter-Strike is going to be elevated a lot in terms of enjoyment for fans once we start seeing the salaries for every player, because I think that 40,000 a month, making him probably one of the top 20 most highest paid players in the world, like, that's where I draw the line as to, like, I don't think Esatag is a top 20 player in the world. Like, that's that kind of value there. Like, if this contract were, say, 15,000 a month, I'd be like, dude, great pickup. Like, this rounds out their roster so nicely. Good stuff. But like, is he getting paid more than Alex? He is, right?
Yeah, I mean,
there's it depends. It depends how much the buyouts was.
I guess there's also a different context to like when you get Alex, who's currently teamless, and when you get Woxic, who's currently banned. Compared to drawing Esatag away from Astralis, like you can't just pay them the same amount as someone. That's a factor where value kind of changes based on the context of contract, I think.
Right, which is where I was talking about before. You have to weigh up the risk versus reward, because that just adds more risk. So the reward then has to be greater.
And also a big plus that I actually just thought of is that our comms are going to be very good. because we have like 2 UK people and Alex and Mezzy. We have Floppy, and then we have Esatag, who sounds American. I don't know if you've ever heard him speak, but he
I've
literally
heard him speak
sounds
before.
American.
Yeah.
So our comms are going to be great. International team.
I just think, like, ideally, from watching Mezzy's demos and from playing against Floppy for however long, and then watching Esatag on Astralis when he's at his peak, the three of them are ideally playing the same roles.
That
So
is something I
Floppy,
agree with.
I think Floppy is very versatile. Same with Esatag. I think
so
Floppy.
So you bought 3 players that are very versatile.
No, I'm saying
all ideally play the same. No, but you said that.
No, I don't think Floppy plays the same roles as Esatag or Mezzy in terms of like what they prefer. I think there's a difference between the spots you like and prefer, and then like what spots you can actually play. That too, the spots you're best at, and also the spots that you're comfortable with and play. I think it changes drastically from player to player. I don't think so. One player that plays like barrel on overpass monster might be comfortable being the rotator as well, and another player might not be comfortable doing that at all.
No, but just because the player is comfortable doing that, like their whole thing was I'm going to buy players for specific roles that fit this system perfectly, and then instead you bought 3 players that are all like comfortable doing a whole bunch of different things. It just doesn't really fit what was said originally.
So I'm trying to be a mediator here a little bit because I think
I'm just curious.
I'm seeing both your points
too.
here.
And it's like one super set way, like one super set slot way that they played in the previous team. That's like the only way they can play, and that's like the best thing for them to do. I don't think it's like the case with certain players. I think they all have different. There's different context of the spots they were playing in their old teams, in terms of the other players around them, and just what they can actually do and what they maybe might prefer.
I feel like I must not be communicating what I'm saying well, because I'm not saying that Esatag isn't capable of playing different roles. I'm saying that ideally the 3 of them when they were playing at their best all played the same roles.
I think Esatag's definitely more of a risk in that way, and that we haven't seen he's like switched around a bit. So yes, we've seen his best roles, like his currently best play and Astralis in terms of playing Fitness's roles. But historically, his preferred roles and like kind of like what his main role was, at least in Heroic, was playing like kind of more of those rotator and like star roles. And obviously, it also is going to differ as well when he goes from playing with IGLs like Snappy and Katie into playing with Glaive, Magisk, Alex. He's going to be playing in more set teams. There's going to be more to those teams, and potentially set him up to play even better in those spots.
My question for the C9 roster is who's running in first of these riflers, actually, because I don't really see of these 4 names, even in, I think Alex actually is almost like the most likely to run in first, which is kind of concerning for me in terms.
What do you mean, like run in first, like execs, like defaults? Because to me, like
just scaling, let's say scaling on a
scaling. To me, like
who's going to be the person who scales?
I literally think any of them can.
So in the
I think they're all aggressive.
Henry G said that Esatag would be the entry/aggressive rifle. That's why my initial point was that seeing him in that role is not what he's been doing recently, and not what his best performance was recently either. So that's why
so that's kind of more
very, very questionable. Not necessarily questionable, but I think that the idea is that the amount that they've signed him for is questionable based on the role that he's going to have on this team.
Yeah, I think you could argue the amount is questionable and arguable, but I think there's also there's probably the fact that they got to keep Floppy for free, which obviously I'm sure opens up some of the budget. And so,
I think
it's about getting you need to get a 5th player also that because you have Floppy and Mezzy, like your 2 inexperienced players. And I think Esatag is also a safe bet, and that you probably know he's not going to come in and just be a massive fuck up and just be actually just like shit. He's going to come in and just be a complete failure. At the very least, he's probably going to come in. He's going to play pretty well. He's going to be a very stable teammate, and that's very, I think, valuable to have for a team that's trying to get itself started from the ground up.
No, I actually do agree, and I think what might have fucked everything up is originally that you guys didn't think that, or Cloud9 didn't think that they were keeping Floppy, so you signed Mezzy because you didn't think you were keeping Floppy, and then all of a sudden Floppy wants to stay. But now you already want Esatag. So now you're keeping Floppy. You've already signed Mezzy, and you want to get Esatag. And I think Esatag's a great signing. I think Esatag's a great signing, actually. I do. And I think that keeping Floppy was good, too. But I think that what fucked it up is that you signed Mezzy because Cloud9 didn't think they were keeping Floppy. So then
out of everyone,
I don't think the Mezzy signing... don't
I think
think
Floppy's role is going to change the most out of everyone, and compared to what he was doing before, I think he'll be picking up more. Like, I mean, I can't say for sure because it's not like we talk about it, but ideally, like, kind of what I've always seen for Ricky in my mind, the kind of the player I've always envisioned him, I think kind of like his maximum at least, was almost like a JKS type player, like kind of like that lurker, anchor. That's where he's like really good at working by himself and having a ton of impact. And it's something I wanted almost to see us do more on like the old Cloud9, like kind of switch that with Sonic at times. And I don't think we really did that much. So that is definitely one thing that I think that's definitely not like 1-1 carried over from the previous team.
Yeah,
Is
like,
that Floppy's role will change the most.
yeah. So like I was saying, I think that the signing that, in the context of everything that happened, the signing that I think doesn't make sense anymore is the Mezzi signing, not Esatag. I think Esatag's actually a great signing. I think I think he's not a great signing in the context of everything that's already happened. But I think if Mezzi didn't get signed, then Floppy and Esatag is really good.
Mhm.
But I think now that you have the three of them, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Messi's definitely an unknown, and I
Yeah.
definitely think it'll help to have like a Ricky though that is kind of not like super shaped, like because obviously he's had like his preferred spots and stuff in his like his old team, but also he's only played in like 2 teams before this, so it's not like he's like super set as a player and like what he wants to do and what he has to do in a team. And also I think in Game Religion, like his old team, he probably had a bit more like different expectations on his shoulders in terms of what he had to do and the kind of roles he had to play. So definitely I think Mezzi and Floppy will be the 2 interesting ones on this team to watch and see kind of how they fill into the team.
Something I'm really curious with these role overlaps at the moment is Henry's already said that he plans to sign a 6th player, not necessarily in the immediate future, but at some point. And I'd be curious to see what sort of player he settles on for that.
I would just pick any aggressive rifler with skill, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Just give me Bubsky, honestly.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. At this point, Bubsky made more sense than Esatag, even though I think Esatag's better.
I agree with that too. I kind of thought that.
I think Bubsky would have been really weird role-wise, actually. Like, theoretically, he's more aggressive than the other 2, but spots-wise and role-wise, I think he actually fits worse than Esatag does in terms of versatility. Because Bubsky is more set in terms of, like, he wants to play more like those anchor and lurk spots. And so that would have been forcing one of Floppy either to, like, so now we're going to abandon that kind of, like, thing. Or Messi's going to have to go into playing more of the pack and with Alex most likely. So he's going to have to take up more of, like, a larger role immediately. Which obviously you could say fits him more compared to what he's doing in his like old teams, but that does change like the pressure and expectations. So at least in my mind, I think Esatag was better than Bubsky.
Interesting.
Okay.
I think Esatag's a little more well-rounded and versatile than Bubsky is, which helps.
I agree he is.
Which I think
fits a specific role better.
Yeah, which I think especially helps though with a team that's being built from the ground up, and even if like you build up with like certain roles in minds and stuff, when you get like 5 new players, it's going to be hard to like fully flesh that out and see exactly like where everyone's going to be playing and how it's all going to fit.
Let me sum up this conversation with just one simple question. In 6 months' time, so April of next year, let's do the beginning of April next year, April Fools. Where do you guys see this Cloud9 roster being in the world ranking? Note, I want to hear from you first.
Honestly, I would rate them as probably a top 5 team in 6 months. Maybe a top 5 might be a bit rough. I would say maybe a top 8 team. I think they'll be past the top 10, but probably around the top 8.
Okay, Davey. Right.
Is everything staying online, or are we assuming it goes back to lands in January?
Oh, that's a good question.
Maybe there's like some lands.
Thank you.
That's a very good question.
Yeah,
let's just say hypothetically for the context of the question.
For the context of the question, there is 1 land in 2 lands in March or something. Lands come back in March, just for the hell of it. I don't know why.
Let's say there's 2 lands before April.
Yeah, 2 lands before April.
No, because we already know there's going to be more than 2. Like at the end of this year, there's going to
be.
I
don't know, dude. Fuck this.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going top 10.
Let's just say yes, lands will be back. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
In that case, I think.
If lands are back.
If lands are back, I think top 15.
Yeah, I think they're lower. I think they're worse.
What?
I think so. Look, I'm being nice. All I'm saying is I think top 15. The thing is that the person we haven't talked about yet is Woxic, who can always pop off. I think a lot of it will come down to on land. Yes, no, like I'm saying, like he actually can pop off. So I think that that's definitely a good thing for them. Alex has a ton of LAN experience. Esoteric has a ton of LAN experience. So like ignoring Floppy and Mezzy, you have a core 3 of really good experienced LAN players. So I do think that they will be able to perform on LAN. I still don't think they're, as far as whatever, we've already talked about it, but I don't think they're going to be I think they're going to be top 15 would be my guess.
Give a number. Give a number.
Fucking 12, bro. Like, I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
All right. As of, hang on.
Right, floating around that top 10, but they're
exactly. So as of April 5th, okay, the HLTV rankings on April 5th, 2021, Cloud9 will be number 6.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Wait, no. What did you say? I didn't want to copy you.
He said top 5.
I said top 5, but corrected myself to like top 8-ish.
Top 1.
Oh, I would have said 9th. I would have said 9th place by April 5th, 2021. All right, let's move on. Okay. 100 Thieves leaving CSGO. A couple of the players have already moved or kind of rumored to move to a couple different teams. JKS, big rumor to Complexity. jkaem is actually moving to Apeks. Not Apex Legends. There's a team called Apeks, if you guys are not familiar with it. Norwegian team. But then we have Gratisfaction, we have Azure, and we have Liaz. And let's start first with just like the broad topic of this. 100 Thieves leaving CSGO. A little bit of a eulogy for this team. Consistent legend status at majors prior to this. Or actually not as 100 Thieves, but when they were as Renegades. But it's a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a hit to the NA scene. So what do you guys think? How do you guys think this will affect, at first, the NA landscape? Because now there's just one, straight up, there's one less team in NA for these NA teams to practice against.
I mean, yeah, it just kind of sucks. One less team, less practice overall. So always was already kind of dire, and now losing 100 Thieves is obviously a big blow to the practice scene in NA. So kind of sucks.
Yeah. Note, you want to go, or Alex? One of you two?
Yeah, I mean, losing a team like 100 Thieves is definitely going to have a huge effect on the practice in North America, because now you have like 3-4 lineups that are actually like have top level experience that are going to be scrimming, and then out of those 3 or 4 lineups, 2 of them are about to leave to Europe as well. So like over the next 6 months or next 4 months, it's going to be very difficult for any North American teams to really gain any experience that are outside of that element. Also, I think Krat might also be moving to Valorant. I know you posted like a looking for team for CS and Valorant. Yeah. So like losing a player like that entirely would also be a bit detrimental.
Also, I feel like once you do that, now all of a sudden all the CS teams are like, all right, never mind. Go play Valorant. You know what I mean? Like as soon as you post looking for CS or Valorant, all of a sudden any decent Counter-Strike team that was looking at you is just like, okay, never mind.
I don't know. I'd kind of disagree in Grat's case, because I don't think going back home is really an option for him at the moment. So, kind of need to find something soon.
He just needs a job.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. No, I actually think going to Valorant's a good move for him, to be fair.
But I think if an org like was interested in CS and took that away from him just because he was like interested in Val as well, it'd be kind of
No,
silly.
I'm not necessarily talking about the team, talking about the players. It's just like, okay, how committed are you though? Like how committed are you actually? Right? Like that would be my thought process.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some hypotheticals briefly for where the we kind of did this
I
already.
actually want to say something about 100 Thieves.
Yeah, but I want to hear Davey's.
I want to say something about 100 Thieves. So
yeah,
like,
sure.
I feel like first of all, in the Twitch chat in their last game, there was people like saying like, "Oh my god, 100 Thieves throwing disband shit team," and I remember thinking like, "Okay, that's pretty funny actually," like because they are disbanding and you just don't know.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
It is. It's pretty funny actually. But not only that, like, so people are like throwing shade at 100 Thieves, like the org, for leaving. And I want to say, like, when you look at the like, I don't know anything that went on behind the scenes, but their contracts are up at the end of the month, right? So JKS signed a Complexity for free. He just at the end of his contract, he's going to Complexity, right? So
are they?
Yeah, their contracts are up at the end of the month.
Or they
I guess that's why he's not been announced yet, because they're just waiting.
They're waiting out for the contract to expire. So first of all, good job, Complexity. Huge move on your part. You got a top 10 player in the world for free. That's incredible. At least I think he's a top 10 player.
Although on that point, Apeks did buy jkaem, so I don't know.
They might have wanted him.
Odd that they would choose to buy him with a month left.
They might have wanted.
They might not have.
Maybe jkaem's contract was longer. I don't know.
They might not have been able to get jkaem unless they bought him. Like, I don't know.
True.
Like, that kind of move makes me feel like this is almost like a power move from the Apeks organization, and that they're like, we're serious. We're gonna get jkaem. We're trying to stay with the Norwegian brand. This is the best Norwegian player, and we know we can do this right now. So, and I don't know if he joins in free agency.
And again, I don't know anything like 100% from behind the scenes, anything like that. But I know their contracts were up at the end of the month, so I'm just making the assumption, since JKS is being waited so long to be announced, and Complexity hasn't officially said anything, that they're just waiting for the contract to expire and then signing him, right? Or he signed some sort of pre-contract deal. So something along those lines. But then also, if you're 100 Thieves, right, and you're losing jkaem, you're losing JKS, why would you keep Gratisfaction, Liaz, Azure, and build a new team on those salaries? Like, why? Like, actually, why would you? You just lost your two most valuable assets. Like, what's the point?
I think it was more like JKS wanted out because
exactly
wasn't. So I thought it was like the other way around. Because as far as I know, that team, like JKS and all of them, like they probably would have stuck together, like if like the org and everything was like, if everything like was panning out like the way maybe things should have this year. But obviously with Corona and everything, it's kind of thrown everything into a fucking spiral.
Right. So like my only point was, at this point, it actually makes sense for both parties to like JKS go to Complexity, jkaem go do your thing, Grat go play Valorant, 100 Thieves will just back out for now, come back in later when it makes more sense. You know what I mean? Like, I think this actually makes sense for everybody. I don't think anybody here should really be getting flamed, to be honest.
What about Nadeshot for not watching the game, Davey?
Don't be like this.
We're a trauma podcast now.
No, yeah, I know. I didn't want to get into it. I didn't want to.
No, it's just like
breaking news: Nadeshot not watching 100 Thieves. Final.
Like, who cares? Who fucking
yeah, that's not
Nadeshot stream.
That's not what this pod is about. All right, we're gonna move on incredibly quickly. Actually, I just wanted to talk about then jkaem joining Apeks. I don't know if you guys know this team at all. I have actually watched them a handful of times because they played in a lot of Home Sweet Home Cups and those 9-to-5s and things like that. And this team has Dennis. The names that anyone would know are just Dennis, jkaem, and maybe if you like caught a brief glimpse of this team at one point, you would know Marcelius because he's their opper and he's pretty much been their best player. Other than like, it's kind of like Dennis and Marcelius win them games, and honestly, the rest of the team was kind of not great at times. So, like, what do you think? What do you guys think though about the career trajectory for jkaem? That, you know, top 10 team in the world, pretty much constantly, and then now this is like the 65th best team in the world. I haven't checked their updated ranking today, but last I checked they were like in the 60th range. Like, what does this mean for jkaem? Is he doomed to tier 2, tier 3 EU CS forever now? Like,
so jkaem moving to this team doesn't really surprise me, just given the circumstances of 100 Thieves leaving, because I know that jkaem and Rain have both considered like creating a Norwegian lineup for a long time. So it's not necessarily a surprise. It's just the fact that they're not quite at the sort of level you'd expect for a team for jkaem to join. Like, he definitely could have had a better prospect on an international lineup or like another top 20, top 30 team. But it seems like he sort of wants to take his experience to like a domestic scene and sort of help build that up, because there hasn't really been a top Norwegian team. I'd be curious to see if they like try getting Rain at some point, whether that's in a year or in a few months, because I would not be surprised in the least if that's part of their plans in the future.
I think during coronavirus, this kind of move actually makes a lot more sense. I think like to talk about just like the external factors, like, you know, he's been away from Norway for a long time, and the fact that he can now move home and probably get if they were willing to buy him out of the 100 Thieves contract, this team is paying him like real money, so he actually gets.
Remember, like, if there was pretty much no time left on the contract, the buyout would have been minuscule. Like,
it would have been less.
Nothing. It would have been practically nothing.
It would have been less, but the fact that he can move home now to a domestic team and resume life back in Norway, like how long has he been just like an expat in America? Like
Yeah,
a damn
years.
long time. Yeah, it's pretty. It's kind of nice that he gets to return like this. And I don't really, even though he's taking a huge step down in terms of the quality of team that he's on, I actually think for a life quality standpoint that this is a really good move for him. So I'm a little bummed because, but like he could easily elevate this team. And I just checked, they're the 75th best team in the world. I think with Dennis and jkaem, they are going to shoot up to at least top 45 within the next couple months for sure.
I think
So-
that I feel like the only way he goes to this team is if there's some like long-term plan for the future where you go after a Rain, you go after a Chroman, go after a
Yeah.
Halzerk when Dignitas fucking dies, right? Like you get
Yeah.
the Halzerk, you get your Rain when Nico leaves FaZe and FaZe falls apart, you got Rain, Chroman, Halzerk. You actually have a lot of really talented Norwegian players you could bring into this lineup, right? So I think this is just like the first step in their, let's just say, their plan. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, first we get jkaem because time's running out on 100 Thieves. This is our first like intent signing that like shows we're serious, right? We get jkaem, and then eventually you work towards the bigger players that you want more and more in the future over the next however long.
Like they signed jkaem for 3 years, right? Which is like you have a lot of time to develop a roster over 3 years, especially with the fact that it's been something they've considered before. Like jkaem and Rain have considered grouping together on his team before. So like, well, obviously aside from G2 FaZe, but like, yeah, I can definitely see them spending the next few years sort of building a Norwegian super team as it is.
This signing actually just legitimately gets me excited for the future of Counter-Strike and EU CS, that a 75th best team in the world org is willing to get someone like jkaem. Like I actually think that's just really sick for the scene, because you look at NA and it's so dire. It's just a drought out here. It's like what's even happening? But over in EU it seems like it's a paradise. Like jkaem on the 75th best team in the world, and they're paying him a lot. Like probably that's just cool to me.
Well, Norway too, right? Is that because of how their economy works, like the cost of living there is so expensive, but like the salaries are like inflated to match it. So
Yeah.
what in Norwegian, like the Nordvind years ago was making like 6,000 euros a month, like ridiculous salaries. That was like, wait, why? And
That's
then you
the
realize,
average.
dude.
Oh my god.
No, but like the cost of living in Norway is like scaled up to meet that. So like you have to, like under Norwegian law, like minimum wages and shit, like you have to pay people way more than, so like it's a weird thing. It's just a weird thing. So the numbers for Norwegian teams have always been a little weird because it like almost doesn't make sense outside of Norway.
Interesting.
It is.
Okay,
It's
looks
weird.
it looks like we're gonna have Davey for I think the rest of the pod, so I'm gonna just start
Yes.
jumping into more EU stuff. So let's bring it back then to talking about the games. Have you guys been keeping up with DH Open EU? There were some games this morning. I admittedly did not catch those because I was asleep. Did you guys see anything that started this playoffs though? I saw everything from the group stage though, like literally everything.
No. In a short
okay.
answer, no.
All right.
Not too much.
It doesn't look like there were any big upsets or anything like that. So let's talk briefly then about what I'll just start with what I saw on the group stage, and you guys can feel free to jump on. So from Group A, Vitality and Fnatic, I was bummed that Fnatic didn't make it out of that group, or as the winner. They were in the upper bracket. OG is like, I think I want to just talk about OG briefly because it seems like the community does not understand how good this team is. Like this team is really damn good. Like they have really good players. They have a really good game plan going into every match. You can see that. They are really good in the clutch too now, and they just were in a really effing hard group. Like if they were in any of these other groups, if they were in Group D, they easily win it. If they were in Group B, they easily could have beat G2, probably beat Heroic. I just wanted to shout them out because I don't think everyone is recognizing that this team is like really damn good right now. Have you guys seen any OG lately?
Yeah, I think that with OG, it's a little bit strange because I don't, like you said, I think they're actually underrated because they're trying
Yes.
to do things that are really, really good. If I'm gonna be honest, and this is kind of like boring, it's almost like, oh, there he goes again. But like, I think that MBK has really underperformed on this team, and not even just stats wise, but like there's rounds where he's making uncharacteristic mistakes. I think that might be also there's an asterisk next to everything because everything's online, so it just makes everything a little bit weird for like an older, experienced player like that.
Yeah.
And literally like the game is actually different, by the way. Like for people who don't know, like the game online versus on LAN is actually a different game. Like CT sides are completely different online versus on LAN. So it's just it's just a little strange. I think that overall I agree with you though. They are underrated. And also Alexi B, even though the team is playing well and he is the in-game leader and all this stuff, he has been an actual hindrance on their CT sides in a lot of games where he does get abused. Like he really does. Teams target him a lot. So when him and MBK are playing close together, there's like this weird sort of weakness in their CT sides. But again, online, so hard to know for sure. But I do agree with you. Mantu actually looks like a fucking beast, by the way.
Mantu's sick.
He's sick. Like that was a great pickup.
Yeah, that is some
Picked him as
excellent
my offer
scouting.
too.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted him for C9?
No, I just picked him last week.
Oh, okay, right.
Over Zaiwu.
Over Zoo.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Now that's
true.
a bold move, Cotton. But
I wanted to be different.
No, look, I completely respect it.
Yep. See.
No, Davey, don't encourage.
You're wrong. No, you're wrong, but I respect it. Like.
Okay, I'll keep going. For Group C, I think Group C is also probably one of the most surprising groups here. Big being on top is not surprising, but Godsent over FaZe, that was just a really close match. But you could tell from the veto there that, okay, Mirage went to FaZe, they picked that and they won that. But then Nuke was like, it was 16-11, but Godsent just was clearly so much more comfortable on that map.
FaZe's Nuke looked fucking awful. During the stage. They lost against Saul, I think, as well.
Dude, they did. They did lose to Saul.
Nuke has never impressed me, honestly.
Nico just doesn't seem to be that comfortable, like having as much impact as a guy like Nico should outside.
Yes, exactly.
Like, Cold at ramp seems to be very hit or miss. I don't know how well that's actually going for them. There's just their spots are just very weird at the moment. Like they make sense theoretically. I understand why they're playing why they are, but like they just don't really seem to be like operating well at the moment.
I would probably. Nico just doesn't understand outside as an individual, which is weird to say about a player of his caliber, but like he needs to just watch some demos. Like in all honesty, because the fights that he takes, they're wrong. They're the wrong fights at like the wrong times. And there's like the little micro things where it's like, okay, what do you do when a guy throws the lurk smoke outside and you throw the little like half wall or the half like a big red thing outside? Like where are you supposed to position in those kind of moments, and where should your crosshair placement be? And for a player of Nico's caliber, he doesn't know where to look, and that's just like and someone on his sensitivity, he can hit flick shots, but like he's good when his crosshair is in the right spot and it's not outside, which is strange. So that's probably why they're not. That is definitely why they're not good at Nuke. On Inferno, it just feels like Godsent on their T side, like they just have plans for like what they're gonna do in the round, and it doesn't need to be super complex or anything like that, but they just if they get banana control, they'll just be exec, and even though the players on B are incredible for FaZe, like you just can't hold every B exec, just shit like that. FaZe dropping here, it's a little surprising, but I feel like that IEM New York win was kind of just like, it almost just felt like everything that went right for them kind of could. And in the finals, they won that like double OT game versus OG on Mirage, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but then I didn't feel like they were going to replicate it. Yeah.
They never had to go to like their bad maps is the thing. Like in that BO5, if that BO5 veto went differently, I think they could have lost to OG, because I think that if OG had momentum there, they could have won that, just kind of basing it off of how bad they've looked on maps like Nuke. Like their map pool it's a puddle actually. So I think
it's a slower bracket. We'll have some good games though. FaZe versus Vitality or NIT.
Yeah.
OG versus G2 will be good.
Also,
Rose versus North.
10 from Godsent. That guy owns, by the way.
Yeah,
That-
that guy's really good.
He's hella good. He's
like the European Ponalone, but not Nopper. You know, he's just kind of like he's like 20. He's like 20. No, he's got to be like 27, isn't he? Dude,
He's
I think
28. He's 28.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think he's
28.
literally the
Oh,
European
28, okay,
Ponalone.
okay.
I did
That's
not
what I'm
know
saying.
he was that old.
I know,
Holy.
dude. He's old, bro. Like, but that guy just is so good, though. He's so good. He's like that player where you're watching him and you're like, you're gonna make a mistake soon. I'm watching this demo until I see you fuck up, until I see you make a dumb mistake. I'm gonna watch it, and you watch the whole demo. All right, I'm gonna go to the next one now. Like, all right, let's see. Come on, no, this one's gonna have a really big mistake in it. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? That one didn't have one, but you're playing against like Astralis now, one of the best teams in the world. All right, I'm gonna watch that. You're gonna make mistakes in this one. Nope, he pretty much only missed shots. He never made a big mistake. That's awful. Like it's just that's the type. Like he's nuts. He's so smart. He plays the game so well.
Yeah. I've noticed that he's had better ratings, but the player that pops off to me the most is Modern. I feel like he's the Godsent's bailout guy. Like when things like his lurks on even like Vertigo, sometimes they'll just send him A ramp solo as they're doing something else kind of towards mid or B, and it's like Vertigo A is one of the hardest things to handle as a solo player on the T side, and I've seen him multi-frag as just there by himself, no assistance whatsoever, and I feel like, and it's just like really good aim, like knowing how to juggle situations very well. Like Modern has this sixth sense about him where it just feels like sometimes he knows where he's gonna get peaked. Like he like can choose what spot to look at before he's peaked every time. And if you were like watching on an MM review or something like that, you'd be like, this guy's wall hacking or something like that. Like he's just why does he know where he's gonna get peaked from every time? So he's super smart too, and it's kind of like this player out of nowhere, but for Godsent, I think Zen has been their most consistent, but Modern has been this guy that's just like, okay, he's a contingency plan for when something else on the map just doesn't go right. So I'm actually really impressed with this Godsent team. They're like they look on paper like a poor man's FaZe, but then they just beat FaZe. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see a hungry team like that actually. Because Crystal actually buys into the IGL role.
Well, yeah. You just gotta, right? You just gotta. Like, you just have to.
Other groups in this, Group B, I think that's kind of more or less as expected. I think G2 are showing a surprisingly decent form at this tournament. They actually took a map off of Astralis and they shit on them on Dust 2. That was 16-2, by the way. Like they actually just manhandled Astralis there.
French teams on Dust 2. Astralis made the mistake. The Cardinal sin.
Yeah, what's crazy about it is that Astralis in that game, okay, so G2's T side, they got 13 rounds and Astralis got 11 first opening kills, and it was just like G2 didn't even care. G2 didn't even care when they lost players. They just were like, we're still going to run the same cat exec we were going to run, and it just works. And it's just like, okay, that just shows you don't need to, like, get crazy. I think some IGLs, when they lose a player, they're like, oh, shit, I got to do something different. But then Nexa's just like, nah, we're fine with that. Just 3-man cat exec, all lurk out long late, and it was fine. Like, they just didn't, they were fine on that one.
It's literally the cardinal sin, man. Don't play French teams on Dust 2. Don't play MDL teams on Mirage. It's the rule number 1, rule number 2. If you're if you're a team who's better than the team below, like if you're playing a team who's worse than you, so if you're Astralis, pretty much everyone, you have to follow the 2 basic rules. Okay, French team, X Dust 2. MDL team, X Mirage, and that's it. And then you're fine.
Yeah, that's the flow chart for the
That
vetoes.
is. That's literally that's the veto flow chart right there.
Yeah. I think that was kind of weird, but Heroic dropped a game to them, but like that also feels very Heroic because Heroic CT sides are just like they always want an opening pick, and I think that's been characteristic of Cadian teams for a couple years now. That he always Rogue was, I think, the best case of this, where when he was playing in North America, he would just go for the craziest picks with the op. Like it's like, I mean, today they don't look as crazy, but like running into Hut with an op on Nuke, just like forcing a pick. And that's why it always looked like Cadian was kind of this guy that was, when his emotions ran too hot and he was not comfortable with the situation, or like something was stressing him out too much in a game or something, like, and his form dropped, you just know Heroic's going to lose. But that's just the Cadian. So I feel like, wait, Mix, when you were coaching Rogue, was Cadian on the roster, or was that just MSL solely?
Just MSL, yeah.
Oh, okay.
MSL was the reason I joined. He stole me from Davey.
True.
Yeah.
And
I'm a
then
very
and then we got Alex, I think, after that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, this is kind of weird.
This is a space. It's space station time. It should
Yeah.
be the name of this episode.
Yeah.
Space station side.
Okay.
Space Station and Note.
It's me.
All right. Let's just move on then. Really quickly. Predictions for the rest of DreamHack Open Europe. Davey, let's just go with you first. Who do you think is going to be in the grand finals, and who's going to come in third place?
I think you could see Big in the grand finals. They're going to play the winner of Vitality and Nip, and I think that Big will actually be weird favorites in that one. Not weird favorites because they have been really good, but I actually would probably assume they would beat either of those teams. Then the other upper semis, you have Astralis Fnatic. I think Astralis is a pretty safe bet because it's Astralis, so they just always are. But honestly, I think that's a little bit more coin flippy than generally you would assume. I think Fnatic has a good chance of taking them. As far as like the teams in the bottom, I'm just looking. I don't think OG will make it through. Sorry. Same with
It's too long of a lower bracket round.
I think it's literally going to be Astralis, Fnatic, Big, top three, and pick your order. I think it's kind of at that point, it's just you're just flipping a coin over and over again. But I think one of those three will win, and then the other one will be second, and the other one will get third.
I'll go for Astralis led by Cloud9 superstar Esatag for one of the finals,
Oh, we're bringing it back.
and then Vitality will be the other finalist, and then the third place team will actually be NIP. I know it's surprising, but that's how it's gonna be.
Okay, note, I was gonna let you go next, but NIP will not be there. Okay, Knock is fitting back in again, and in all honesty, they're getting better every game, but they open this by losing to Sprout.
Yeah,
and
I just really like NIP.
Okay, you can like them, but like
Alex, let me rephrase your question. Mix, which of the teams that are remaining in the tournament are your favorite teams? 1 to 3.
No, so really it'll be Astralis and Vitality in the final, and then the third place decider will be Fnatic, NIP. Okay, I'll go Fnatic actually. Fnatic will win. NIP's not quite there yet. But when you've seen
back so early,
but when you've experienced NIP like I have at IEM Katowice, they're just ingrained into your mind, to your memory.
So for like, I don't know if you guys know this or like, this is the first tournament back in a while. It's been Threat that's been playing for them lately, and actually they've been pretty serviceable, but this is like, they're not as well oiled as they were before. I'll say that. They don't look as good.
I'll always believe in Threat though.
So no, you go and then I'll give my preds.
I would go Astralis Vitality for the finals here. Consolidation final, I'd say Big makes it to the consolidation final. Maybe a big Fnatic consolidation final. So
really daring.
Top four will be Astralis Vitality.
Someone's got to be daring here, dude. Someone else.
All right,
come on.
Daring, and then there's picking NIP.
Give me something.
Okay,
Alex.
well, I'll say this. Fnatic is winning. Okay, so this has been my angle the entire tournament on the desk, is that Fnatic is winning this tournament because they are in a team house together. They are boot camping right now in the same room, and they haven't been before this. So their comms in late round situations are like peak Fnatic right now. Like they are, and there's a level that's being played by Flusha right now that we haven't seen for a while. Like, okay, Flusha is a top 3 player at this tournament right now. Like ZywOo, Flusha, and I don't even know who would be the third best player right now. I think it might actually be Xantares.
Technically it's ZywOo, Xantares, Nock, then Cadian, then Issa, then Dupree, then Hunter, then
Okay, in terms of rating, that may be true, but Flusha's impact is incredibly high right now. It's crazy. Like Flusha is playing out of his mind.
I would like to say,
okay, that's because Flusha doesn't get eco frags. Flusha doesn't get eco frags.
I only look at stats.
Flusha was another pick for the mixed super team last week.
I don't know if Mix is to be believed. Mantu should actually be the best player in this tournament at the moment. So
actually, though, like ZywOo has been like the only. No,
ZywOo's a god.
The only reason why I'm not picking Vitality to win or to make it to the final, I think they'll be in the top 4. I think they're going to lose the consolation final. But the only reason why I'm not picking it is because ZeWu has put up 1.5 rating across their 5 maps so far. It's like, okay,
That's different.
Yeah. Yeah,
like I'm
exactly.
just like, okay, like come on, like that's too good over too
Yeah,
short.
you say that you're like okay, that's too much of a win condition to be
It
consistent.
is.
And then it's like, he
But that's
just
how it's
drops-
always been for
Then,
them.
then it
Not
just drops
1.5, not 1.5, okay?
1.4. Sorry.
No, like 1.5.
1.5 is a little bit insane, honestly.
That's-
Like that's
And they've only played 5 maps. So
Yeah.
The
Isn't it
only
crazy
reason
how like you see ZeWu with like a 1.2 and you're like, damn, he's struggling today.
dude,
Also,
he's got to do more.
but Xantares is like full blown online Terras right now. Like he is
Oh yeah, he's insane.
farming. He is
Yes.
farming, and so is Searson. Whereas on Vitality, it's just really counting on that ZeWu
One thing I did like about Big, just kind of touching on them real quick, like I was watching them against FaZe on Nuke, is I really liked how like seamless like their rotations were and how they were able to use Xantars because like he's like their like ramp player, but they weren't scared to just have like Xantars like go down secret and just go secret, fight outside, and then Tabson, the normal outside
Yes.
player, we're just gonna pick up ramp for him. That's
Yep,
it's good to see. It's good to see them giving like the ramp player and stuff that kind of freedom.
In terms of recent performances compared to this tournament, I feel like Flesha and Xantares are excelling because like the last 2 tournaments, Big was kind of like they actually did really badly at Cologne, if I'm not mistaken. I think they like came in last or something.
They bombed out.
And Xantares is playing out of his mind right now. So I think actually my grand finals here will be I'll do Fnatic, of course, is going to be in it. I still am going to do Astralis, but I think my third best team here is Big right now because it's Fnatic, Astralis. This is going to be a rematch of the upper bracket right now for the grand finals where Fnatic takes it, and Big will lose to Fnatic in the upper bracket or lower bracket finals. Actually,
there's no way. There's no way to be this simple.
Mix DreamHack already sent me the script, okay? And if you don't know, all these tournaments are just scripted, so I literally know how the order of show.
Can you script it for my team to win next time?
I'll take a word up.
Alex doesn't write the script, man. He gets the script.
Yeah,
I know. I'm just saying. Can you this might be a good idea. Flashpoint writers,
Yeah, Flashpoint writers. Like Cloud9 lower bracket run all the way to win it all. Colossus intact. Something. Yeah, that's how it's gonna go.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, just a couple more things really quick here. I don't think you guys... Fuck it, who cares? Okay, so VP is on a tear right now. They just beat Navi, and they also just won the Flashpoint 2 close qualifier. Have you guys... Okay, I've been watching this VP team a little bit here. Yakinder is pretty damn legit, but he takes like way too many risks for my liking.
That guy's like a 32% opening kill. That's exactly what I expected from Yakinder.
Yeah.
That's like the exact type of player I was expecting him to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they lost adreN and got Yakinder, it's kind of like they went for like just the polar opposite. They just needed something to shift their playstyle.
That is a polar opposite shift in playstyle.
Yes.
That's taking out one super experienced passive playing my bitch spots player for like who's the most whole W player besides Art that I can feasibly get, and it was Yakindar.
Yeah, is it Yakindar?
Latvian, bro. It's because he's Latvian.
Yakinder. I say Yakinder.
Yakindar. I don't know, dude.
Yakinder.
Like I said, he's Latvian. Who knows? Like I don't even this is the first person I've ever seen from Latvia. I think like
Roki. Yeah,
true. Yeah. Good point, dude. Latvia's coming out with some bangers. Like,
Latvia super team soon.
Actually, though, dude, I feel like you could make a better Latvian team than you could a Norwegian team right now.
Pause. Heavy pause.
A year ago, I didn't even know that was a country, and now they're just popping off.
I love Counter-Strike in that it just educates us on like new countries.
Literally.
Like I didn't know Montenegro was actually still like its own entity. Like I had I wasn't sure what.
Like sometimes you're on HLTV and you see a flag and you're like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
Geography and math. If you ever need, if there's ever a question in a math textbook, you have $16,000. You have to buy something that's going to cost you $2,700. Like I can like count down from 16,000 like it's nothing right now. Or I can do like like if the score is 7-5, I know exactly how many rounds have been played instantly. That's quick addition right there. I don't even need to do it in my head. I just know 7-5-12. It's easy done.
It's really great that they're just helping you with your addition there, your mental math.
It's all about education at the end of the day.
That's the subvert like goal for Valve right now, just educating people. No, okay,
Oh my
all
God,
right.
imagine though, like just fuck.
They're turning us all into computers that can only add by like 1400, 1900, 2400 every time.
Yes.
I mean, to return to the topic a bit, I personally rate Kinder pretty highly. Like I think he's plugged pretty well into VP so far. What's the real question for me would be whether he looks so good because it's just suddenly changed their style and teams haven't adapted to it yet, or whether it's something that's going to be a consistent factor and they'll be able to maintain this sort of form going forward. Because if they can maintain that sort of form and Kinder continues to perform like he is right now, then VP honestly looks really good, and I look forward to seeing them sort of play against these sort of teams again. But that's the big question for me right now with this lineup, is whether it's just because it's a sudden shift in their style and the way they're playing, whether that's why they're finding success.
I would, if I were VP's coach, what I would let happen is I would kind of let this combination, of Yakinder's aggressiveness and kind of James playback style. And what? And Buster?
Buster's super aggressive too. We gotta remember.
Yeah. I would let this kind of like just ferment for a while and let teams try to like understand it. And just like a good fermentation, it's going to get funky. The way you add the funk would be to put Jame in some of the positions, like just kind of randomly on a round. Put Jame with the op where other teams are going to think Yakinder is, so it's an op facing you instead of a rifle. Just like little mix-ups like that is going to be so scary for this team, because people will catch on, like Note said. Like, people will understand that Yakinder is in, like, he loves getting aggressive at A ramp, for example, on Mirage, and he loves getting aggressive at A on Overpass. Like, if you put Jame in some of these spots, so he's the one taking the duel instead of Yakinder, because literally Yakinder peak stairs against Simple in that match where they upset Navi, and he just out-dueled Simple, who had an op, and Yakinder just, like, double-dinked him with an M4. Like, put Jame there instead, and like, next time around, have an op just facing, and it's gonna be like, this is their CT sides is all I'm saying is the CT sides for VP can really scale nicely with how much they can mix things up now because they have a player like this. So I actually am pretty excited for this VP team because, dude, I'm gonna be honest, like, they were kind of boring to watch. Like,
I like this lineup a lot more than the adreN one.
Yeah, it's actually, I enjoy watching this team now, whereas before I'd be like, I gotta really watch a VP game right now to do some, analyst work. Like, that's just not my cup of tea. So.
And James still fucks. He's still really good.
Also IGL, which is like, seeing that happen has also been really interesting. Seeing him adapt to that role, and they're actually doing pretty well with it.
Him and Quickard have always been like on and off the IGL role. They always switch, like, historically, going back years.
He's more primary now, though. Like, something changed along those lines, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong on that, though.
I think they go back and forth between primary, like, all the time.
I was gonna say, I feel like they're just super loose. Like, I feel like it's kind of
it's probably not even that set, in game.
Yeah,
I know, right? It's weird.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up Buster, Davey, though, because Buster on entry routes is just sometimes brilliant as fuck. Like, he'll just sometimes be like he'll read what the defense is on their own execs, and he'll be like, oh, he's behind that smoke, and he'll just shoot the smoke, a burst into it, dead player. Like, the amount of times he does that at least once per map, I feel like. Just reads that, I don't know where the CTs are right now, but I have a feeling they're behind the smoke, and he's just gonna shoot it, and it's just like, that's an entry that I don't think 95% of pro entries give you. So I really like Buster sometimes. Like,
even going back like a year and a half ago when they were Avant-Garde or whatever, and you watch Buster, and it's just like, he's one of the most unique entry fraggers I've ever watched. I don't know if it's intentional, I don't know if it's part of a strat, I don't know if it's him, I really have no idea. But there's times where his timings and his pathing is like super unique. Like, let's say, like, hypothetically, they're doing some sort of cat split on Mirage and they're going up short, right? There's times where they'll flash short and he just won't even peek with the flash. He'll just sit there and like holding window, and then the guy on short will be like, okay, what the fuck's going on? And then wide swing one tap. It's just like, And then sometimes he'll peek before the flash, sometimes he'll peek like a second after, sometimes he'll peek with the flash. The pathing, like the angles that he takes aren't common angles. Like like I said, I don't know if it's like some planned out strategy thing they do. Like I don't know if it's the coach telling him what to do. I don't know if that's just how he plays. I don't know if he's even realizing what he's doing. Like I have no idea. All I know is he's so unique to watch. It's like, it's cool. Like it's fun.
Yeah, I would liken Buster to when Freakazoid was like already pro, but then he played like a season of MDL or something like that. Like he was supposed to be the entry fragger for the Swole Patrol lineup, but like sometimes he would just like the exec would come out and he'd kind of just take his time with it all and wouldn't really like just run in, like because he knows he's way more valuable against MDL players than just sprinting into a bomb site. So he would just be like, let me just kind of like feel this out a little bit. And it's like, oh, I know what's going on here with the CT setup. And then he just gets like a double entry because he knew exactly what was happening. Buster is like that against tier 1 competition at times. So
and as long as you have players behind you who are like who are comfortable with the change of pace and like jkaem and like Kicker, and like who can just when your entry is actually dictating the pace of the scaling instead of the in-game leader telling him what to do. When the entry can actually do that on his own and dictate the pace of the scale and do it well, and you have players behind him who are comfortable with like, okay, now we're going faster, now we're slowing down, now we're going faster, now we're slowing down, and they can just follow the entry properly without having to like communicate it or plan it out. It's very fun to watch. Doesn't always work, but it's fun to watch.
Exactly. When it doesn't work, it looks like, why didn't they run in with the flashes?
Yeah.
That's how it feels. But yeah, last piece of news here. Okay. Edward is open to offers. And we were really digging to the bottom of the barrel to find this one here. But Edward is coming back. It looks like he wants to come back. And I just kind of wanted to ask this question, not about Edward's potential for any roster guys, but historically speaking, when there's an older player like this that's like 32 and it says they want to come back to the scene, I guess from your guys' experience, have you seen this work before? Davey, have you seen?
No, go ahead, Mix. Go.
I was gonna say, like, the only extent I see it consistently being valuable, at least, is like joining like a tier 2 or tier 3 team. Just like you have to be able to like set your expectations a lot lower than what they were, like, because obviously he's not going to join like a Navi or something. Like any like top 30 team isn't going to be looking towards Edward. So it's really up to him to like, there has to be a team, tier 2, tier 3 that experience is actually valuable to, that has maybe some younger players, some skill on it, and you have to just hope that you come in. You're not going to be able to come in and just get like every star role and like just play everything you want. Like you're gonna have to be kind of taking a backseat veteran type role. But I definitely think there's still potential to like climb up with a team if you can find the right team in the scene, the right people to build yourself back up with. But in general, to get back to like a state of like Navi, like a top 10, 15 team, that seems like almost impossible for a player at this stage of their career.
Yeah, like put it this way, I don't see Edward plugging into Navi, FaZe, Virtus.Pro, like maybe Spirit.
What about Nemiga?
Like, I mean, you're really scraping.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the bottom of the barrel, but like you're at that point you really have to have the mentality to build up talent rather than play on a top level if you're coming back like Edward is. And for just generally players like that, like you're not going to get the sort of opportunities you had before, and your mentality just has to be that you're building up talent for the next generation.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like anybody who, let's say, was tier 1, stopped and then came back and was tier 1 again.
Because it's so different now too, compared to when like 2015 when like Dennis did it. Like it's so much easier to do it then, but now it's so different now. It's so like, you leave for like a year, like you're just so far behind.
Yeah. The only person I can think of who left, came back, and then got better was Glaive, but he wasn't tier 1 when he left, right?
Yeah. So, and even that was like 2015, 2016.
Exactly. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like he's
the
only person I can think of who was top tier, stepped down, took a break, came back, and then got better.
Yeah. So I think at that point you just have to be playing just because you just want something to do. You want to play in a team. It's just what you enjoy doing. You're probably not expecting to, get back to the top 5 of Counter-Strike, Obviously, you'll always shoot for that because, that's obviously why you play. But if those are like your actual expectations, you're probably setting yourself up for disappointment.
Although, real quick, too, when Taz got removed from Virtus.Pro originally, I thought he was, really at his lowest low. And then actually recently over the past year or two, I think Tess has actually gotten better than he was at that time. He by no means back to tier 1 by any stretch, but I'm just saying he was actually at his lowest when he got removed, and I do think he's rebounded, not to what he was originally.
He was doing good as like just leading up these as an IGL, these Polish teams leading them to like near top 30, like definitely getting some results. 34 years old, definitely solid.
34.
34.
I'm gonna bring up the player who I think has done it best. Actually, is Hobbit. I think Hobbit, after Gambit initially kind of disappeared for a while, he kind of got married at the end of his run for Gambit, and then laid low for a while, and now he's back on Gambit, and he's kind of owning again. Actually, it's brief, it's short term, it's a really small sample size, but this is
I always felt like Hobbit could get back to that. I always felt like
I don't think
done.
Like Hobbit versus Edward, I feel like Hobbit's game is just so like it's just at a much higher level though. For me personally, like
Plus,
Hobbit
looking at Hobbit, he didn't really fall off like that bad. Like he didn't fall off like adreN levels from Gambit. Like he was still decent.
Right, and the thing with Hobbit for me is also like when he was kind of at the tail end of Gambit, it really felt like he had a lot more to give. Like it did to me, it never felt like, oh man, like Hobbit should take a break right now. It's kind of like he just he took a break and then was on Windstrike for a while or something, and then kind of like slowly worked his way back up. So it's not as drastic of a break as what I think Edward has taken, but it kind of just felt like he was meandering around tier 2. And I'd say Gambit now, one of the top 3 CIS teams, probably Spirit, Navi, and Gambit, or no, top 4 because VP would be there too. So it's not like I think that's the best case scenario for Edward for me.
I do just want to point out, like in the Hobbit thing, if we're talking about like a player who was at their peak, dropped down, and then got back, you know what I mean? Like brought it back.
Yeah.
The Hobbit's not close to have done that. Like when Gambit won the major, he was one of the best players on a team that won the major, right?
Yeah.
And then ever since then, he has been significantly worse than that. Like unarguably. So I don't think he's rebounded back to what his expectations were 3 years ago, let's say.
Right.
Also, just as an aside, is that Hobbit's also just been playing like CSGO. He has more experience in this game specifically, whereas Edward's been playing for such a long time that the sort of like ingrained stuff that he has in him when it comes to playing the game is going to be vastly different. Like the new generation of players, they're faster to react to certain things in game with the sort of experience they have. And Edward just like, especially after taking a break, you're not going to have that same level regardless. And it's going to be very difficult to get back there. Whereas Hobbit had already been playing mostly CSGO and he had most of the experience in this game. So it's going to be a little bit easier for him to transition back into the game. Whereas Edward is he's been playing for such a long time. It's going to be a hard adjustment period.
Okay.
Once you get married, you're doomed. That's it. And see name me one Counter-Strike player who got better after they got married.
Electronic have a kid.
Electronic, yep.
Well, he was already married.
Did he get better?
I don't know, but he's pretty good.
He is pretty good. Better.
All right. I think that takes us to our question of the day. Our question of the week. Let's go to our question of the week here. This one is really broad, but how much of CSGO is aim? And this is for the pro level. How much of CSGO is aim at the pro level?
I've always felt that it was like 75 to 80% aim, even at like a pro level. I just think that like at a pro level, it's like the small differences between like all the other things that make up how good or bad teams are. It just makes like it's really elevated, like how big of a difference like 0.1% makes in terms of like your rotations or your overall structure and stuff. But I still think overall, like in CS, it's still like 75 to 80% aim. It's just at a pro level, you're gonna see more consistent in terms like you're gonna see like more consistent aim in terms of across the board, in terms of across the players.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with like 70-75% of it being aim, because if you don't have the aim to compete, you're just going to be able to do less as well. Like even tactically, you cannot do certain things if you don't have the mechanical ability to pull off certain strats, right? Like if you're not able to for example, react to a certain strat from another team, you're not going to be able to. If you're not able to out aim them, you're also not going to be able to run a play against them. So the baseline aim has to be there, and then the strategy to sort of, that's the big, like the last 25% that separates the best teams from the others.
This is almost going to get to the point of semantics with my answer, to be honest, but I think that like it depends how you define aim, because like is aim the build up to when you kill the person, or is it just at the point when you put your crosshair on their head, right? Because aim is crosshair placement, it's movement, it's pathing, it's being able to know where the person's going to be. Like all of that could fall under aim, right? So like I think that if you're including the crosshair placement and the your movement, I think like you guys said, I think it's like 85% maybe even more than that is at the pro level. You have to be able to do those things to get kills. But so yeah, I think it's probably even higher, like 85% if you're including like instead of maybe just aim, like mechanics, maybe, let's say.
I would have said like even just like individual skill, just define it by like individual raw skill.
I'm gonna clarify it then. I'm going to clarify it then that I'm not including mechanical ability. This is only mouse ability. Like you're not including stuff you do on your keyboard.
Okay, I'm going to go down. Okay, I'm going to go down to like 15% then.
Mouse ability, I'd still say like 45, 50.
For just mouse ability, yeah, I would also drop down to like 30-ish.
Okay.
Say 30%.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm glad that was clarified, because like movement mechanics I would not include in aim, at least for the sake of this argument. Like
because the player crosshair placement goes in tune with that though, right? Because if you're not,
so crosshair placement is part of this because you're moving your mouse for that.
Right. No, I know, but like crosshair placement doesn't matter if you're not moving.
You know, well, like Davey's arguing way too many semantics.
I know. That's what I said.
So confusing. Davey made this so confusing. Davey made this so confusing.
That's what I said.
Okay. Just limit it to everything you do with your mouse. So like let's say your positioning is bad because your keyboard got you there, but your mouse is looking at the right thing at the right time. I mean, almost mean like you can use like any. Like at the pro, so this is also at the pro level. So we're not just saying like dudes are just standing in the middle of the open, like with blind or anything like that, like all the time or anything like that, like just getting hit by every nade. I'm saying like,
so my thought process for this was, how many times in a pro game is somebody completely caught out of position and their flick shot, their ability to aim, bails them out of it? Very few times, right? Very few times does that happen. More frequently than anything else. But for most people,
and Breeze.
And well, Breeze he's special, but I was like, for most of the time, those aren't the kills that happen in Pro CS. It's good pathing, good crosshair placement, kill the person where you know where they are, right? Most of the kills that happen aren't because somebody has significantly better aim than you, right? It's actually like positioning wise and how you set up your crosshair before you have to take the fight.
But so, I think you kind of take for granted, even just like in like a one-on-one fight, how much aim is like being used there. Like just raw aim. Like it's I think it's easy to look over like how many rounds are just defined by like one like 50-50 gunfight that pretty much just comes down to aim. Like there's so many rounds that obviously like you're doing so many things to get to that point, but at a certain point you just need to win your 50-50 fights and to win games. Like
true. So I kind of want to bring this back to like Liquid 2019 at the beginning of that. It did not feel like they were doing anything tactically like out of the ordinary, actually. Like a lot of just kind of heavy hitting defaults and just like sometimes dudes just winning their fights on the side or multi-fragging from a position that is like, okay, like if they can just push on forward and just keep finding kills like this, sure. But like Astralis on the example and is kind of like they're still above average skill, but their tactics and team play elevate them to that consistency that we still see. We literally see it today, you know? So I was kind of, with this question, I'll frame it once again and just a little bit more, that how much of staying consistent at the top level in CS is about your player's mouse ability. So like Astralis, for example, like would they have had that run if, say, they had 20, like if they weren't at 100% of their aim there, like what if they were at 85% of their aim? If everyone just got 15% worse.
Yeah, though they would have fallen off hard. They would have fallen off hard.
Yeah, they would have fallen off hard.
But like you said, we're talking about how much of Counter-Strike is just pure aim. Like, so how much of Counter-Strike is a 50-50 gunfight? Like I said, I think it's maybe 15%. I think it's like maybe 15%.
Okay.
15% of kills and deaths are 50-50 gunfights. Most of the time, somebody's advantaged already. So
yes.
So that's what which is why I was like, it's low. Like it's like maybe even 10 to 15% of the gunfights that happen in Counter-Strike are pure 50-50s. Where it's just aim that's going to make the difference.
Yeah, that's kind of like the amount, but like the raw amount of like fights that are that. But in terms of like how important each fight is, and in terms of like how games generally swing and the type of fights that can generally swing big rounds and big games, I think it's worth more than like 15-20. At least it's just my opinion. I'd say it's probably like, you know, like 40, 45, somewhere around there.
So I would have put this around like 30% because I just think of every round, how much of it is impacted by a 50-50 gunfight. And I would say there's because like just 10 people in the server, like let's say there's 5 one-on-one fights in a round or something like that.
Even not even like a 50-50 gunfight, like a 60-40 gunfight, you know. Like
it's still impacted by aim.
Yeah, like you still have to capitalize that, and you you still have to have players that, you know, are able to win you gunfights that you shouldn't be winning. Like, you know, you have to have those types of players. So
but I think if you set up your team to have, let's say the majority of your gunfights are 60-40, even if you have worse players, you'll win against them more often than not. So that's why I think that it's actually not the most important thing.
Yeah, like I don't think.
Yeah,
I think that Astralis, for example, though, would have won like maybe like one, like if they went down 15% in aim, I think they advantage their players so frequently that they don't need aim nearly as much as obviously Liquid did. Like I think that's pretty safe to say. And so I think like there's a couple tournaments where it was like they scooted by in like a BO3 because one map went 16-14. So if they lost 15% of their aim there, that would have been a semifinals finish instead of winning the grand finals where they might have stomped it or something like that. And so trying to just like draw this all out, I think like 30% is kind of safe for me to say for a team like that. And I think it's contextual in that like for Liquid, how much of their success was aim was probably like 70%. But for Astralis, I think it's a lot more 50-50 for how much aim impacted that round for them.
Yeah, it does come down to talking about that raw mechanic, and also like it's hard to factor it in without considering positioning, and also just generally when you're taking your peaks and who you're dealing with. Like that's such a big factor when it comes to the game, that when you're just isolating something like aim, it does reduce the overall impact that it has. It's not going to be as big of a factor because the fact that you're taking when you're choosing when to take your duels, you're choosing the 60-40 duel, you're choosing the 50-50 duel, unless you're completely out of position a lot of the time, or you're forced out of position, which again is not an aim mechanic. The other team is generally forcing you out of position, or you're making a misplay, which is again not about aim. So it really does just come down to, like, I would agree with 30%, as what I said earlier as well. So
okay. I think that's pretty much it. Davey, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nah.
Okay. Sick. That's sweet,
not
dude.
Not yet. I mean, obviously Peeker's advantage, of course, but you already know that.
Hell yeah.
We're actually
still looking for desk work, talent work?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. But
Sweet.
like me and Alex were talking about this the other day. The TOs like sort of already have their like list of people they like and who they're going to hire. And so unfortunately, me and him are just on different lists. we're on different lists for what TOs want to hire us.
Yeah. No to mix. You guys got anything coming up?
Just practice.
Sweet.
Shout out to Cloud9 Classic.
No, you got any interviews?
Nothing coming up at the moment, so not quite.
All right, cool. All right. Okay, that'll
interview with you, bud.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Dust to US interview.
No, I'm just kidding.
Dust to US interviews the stream teams. HLTV, not quite.
Oh yeah.
Toxic.
No, it's good.
All right. I'll just once again say, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, if you guys skip through it, check out the Patreon. I think that is the biggest thing to plug. And be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell and all that good stuff. Blah, blah, blah. YouTube algorithm. You guys know how to work it better than I do, I think, because I like half the comments every time within the first 5 minutes are like algorithm. People just type that in the comments, and that helps. Thanks, guys. Anyone that types algorithm in the comments, you're my hero. It's a good
I'll
type.
upvote you.
Follow Mix on Twitter.
Oh, thank you.
Follow Note on Twitter.
Thanks.
Unfollow
Alex
Davey
up.
on Twitter.
Yeah, unfollow Davey. Follow
Unfollow,
Josh.
block Davey. Even if you're just a fan of the scene. Even if like it would just be great if like Davey just like we have like these chains on these threads on Twitter just against to random people, and then Davey tries to click and it's like, why the hell does this dude that's following 1,000 people has 18 followers block me? Like,
Well, one of my favorite things to do
everyone
is
troll
try to
Davey like
get, I try to get C9 people to block Ryan.
yeah, that's a good one.
That was funny.
That's your shout out. Okay, block Ryan, block Davey. All right, peace, guys. That's it.